Hi, you're watching Listen Loco, the greatest show on earth. Don't forget to subscribe.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into the first episode of live version of Listen Loco. Hopefully all future shows will be live. I'm sorry if there was some production problems. It was my first time doing a live production, and also Thorn just moved into a new place, so he had a few internet problems. But in the future episode, it will be all fixed and nice for you guys to enjoy.
Okay, this is going to be episode 9 of Listen Loco, that show where the first few minutes really confuse and discombobulate Loco because it's not planned. He doesn't know what could be said, and he really just wants to skip to the topics because, again, the young man is not actually fully aware of how these talk shows work. Like, you're a talk show, you talk, you get to know people, you open up, and eventually find your way to talking about why Bjergsen's a relevant good player. Like, it happens every episode. I've already referenced TSM. Now, here's the thing, Gilius. There's one level on which people who are hosts should do a lot of studious research. They should know the details out there. But luckily, as an industry veteran, I'll show you how you freewheel it, but end up looking even better. So here's the thing. I don't actually know, Gillian, what team you play for. I genuinely don't know. But no one else does either. So you're now going to tell us, what team do you actually play for at the moment? It's a academy team, isn't it, right?
No, I signed with a Turkish team.
That's right, okay, my
Istanbul.
mistake.
Yeah.
Okay. Who was on that team? Like, what were some famous players on that team?
I mean, the roster's not announced.
I'm assuming in the past they had like some famous players though, right? Some Koreans or some. Who did they have in the past on the lineup? No one would know.
I'm not sure actually. I mean, I think
He
they
doesn't
just,
know, right? Not off to a great start.
I mean, the Turkish league just got franchised, so it's like a bit new. And the only players announced on the roster is Holy Phoenix, Eddie Carey, and me as jungle. So
Okay,
yeah.
I remember Holy Phoenix. Yeah, a while ago, the wild card player. Not
Yeah, this
bad.
guy's really good. Yeah.
Wasn't he on Dark Passage before?
He was on many teams, man. Yeah, Dark Passage. I think Supermassive or Royal Bandits. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay. Here, well, I've noticed Loco's already made the classic mistake of actually putting loads of questions about the Turkish League of Legends. Like, I don't know how we even dare do that, Loco, when you didn't want me to have, I won't mention who, but certain people who were like experts at the LMS, and you were like, oh, guys, what the LMS was like. Oh, sorry, Marvis, you love the fucking Turkish League, do you? I know all about it. From someone who hasn't even been in the Turkish League yet, he's just about to fucking join. And you saw he already started with the first 2 questions about who are you, where you played, and do you know anything about them? Like, so let's start here. Loco,
Yeah.
let me ask you this question. Do you actually care about wildcard teams? Are you one of those people who actually legit cares? I'm just wondering.
No, I don't really care too much about wildcard teams. Why I am trying to care a little bit more about Turkish League is though someone linked me a document about the Turkish League and how many people are starting from Turkish League. So I was like, wait a minute.
Right? Sure.
Chaps, Buipo, Snowflower, Broken Blade. There's like a lot that I missed, but there were about 10 players from Turkish League starting in NALCS, EULCS, and also LCK from Turkish League, like on starting lineups. So I was like, okay, this league has to be very competitive, and it's somewhere a lot of teams look toward to import players. And also, so I did a little bit of research on Turkish League, and I found out something like insane. So Frozen, the mid laner for Supermassive.
It was incredible miracle back in the day, but yeah.
Yeah. So he actually gets paid somewhere around 500. I heard even a little bit above for his contract this year. I'm not sure how true that rumor is, so I did a little bit more
You mean
research.
like $500,000, yeah?
$500,000. So I did a little bit more research and checked out kind of the sponsors that the Turkish team had, and they had Nike and they had a lot of the bigger sponsors too, some Turkish airlines, and I was like, how is this even possible? Like, Turkey as a league seems so small. How can they afford to pay players 500,000? And from talking to a few of the Turkish league people, they told me that the league itself, League of Legends itself in Turkey is actually super big. And there aren't that many other leagues that really compete with League of Legends, other esports in general in Turkey, where League of Legends is like the only like real esport. So yeah, I mean, you can pretty much go all in for League of Legends in Turkey. So that's why they
Okay.
get tons of sponsorship and they're able to pay players this much. Like I was so fucking surprised when I heard that number.
Well, the part about that that's actually unusual is it's actually the opposite in CS:GO. So, for example, Turkey had like a pretty decent team in CS:GO. It's called Space Soldiers, and they actually, they placed, they had like the odd upset of a better team, and they've been to some of the big international tournaments. Famously, they were pretty good online, but actually, it was the opposite story with them. Like, famously, they had apparently incredibly low salary compared to like the baseline for CS:GO, and like they were in like a bad situation where they didn't have many other rival clubs they could go to, and there were really many options to get more money. How about this? The person to tell us whether you can get paid a lot in the Turkish league and why you'd go to the Turkish league is, of course, Gilius. So, Gilius, is there sick money in the Turkish league? Bear in mind, you come from the ULCS. You played for some fucking poverty teams.
I mean, the salary I will get is like the same salary I would get in Europe, probably, for this year. So I think it's pretty competitive salary-wise, for sure, yeah. And the thing about the Turkish league is it just got franchised, and many football clubs from Turkey invested into esports this year. So the scene is growing really quickly there. So yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
It's
But
the
is like the
500.
pay when you join a team comparable or better than what you got in Europe?
I mean, depends what team you join in Europe. Some teams are willing to pay a lot, and some teams are pretty broke because they had to pay 12 million to get into the league. So it just depends from team to team, I think.
Is the number that I was quoted, like in the ballpark of what you think is possible, 500,000 for like a top tier mid laner?
I think that rumor is not true. There's no way this guy gets paid 500k, but he probably makes a lot of money because I think he's like dominating Turkey for 1 or 2 years now, and he's like the most hyped player over there, so it makes sense. He's probably getting paid a lot, but I don't believe it's like 500k.
Okay.
That's like NA level.
Yeah, that is an A
Yeah,
level. So
I'm with you on that one, Gilius. Like, I could believe that if he's the player that they think is like the franchise player, they pick the bank and really spend for him. But if I had to guess, I would say like 150. I think 400 or 500 is reasonable. That seems implausible.
Yeah, I
it
don't
does
think
seem
so.
insane.
If you could really pay 500, I think you could probably get an even better player.
Yeah.
Who'd you get that's better for like Turkish league that's like willing to come?
Mate, so I've put 2 and 2 together. There are players in the EULCS or Challenger who are really good players who would be better than Frozen, who would go for way less than 400k.
I mean, I know that.
Think about what the bottom end EU pays.
I know so many EU players, like personality-wise, and if they would get an offer of like 500k, like even being a top star in Europe, they would probably consider Turkey for
Wow.
that salary. Like yeah.
Okay. How competitive is the league itself? I've never watched Turkish league. The only like connection I've ever had with it is like when Supermassive goes to MSI or goes to All Star or not All Stars Worlds.
How competitive?
Yeah.
I think I mean last year it was not that competitive. It was like Supermassive was just destroying everyone. They were on a like 20 game win streak in the spring split, I think, like not dropping any games. But I think this year it can become much more competitive. Like people like Trick, as example, from G2 back in the days. He signed with a team now. Supermassive just got Wolf under contract from SKT. So I think the level overall will just rise with many players, like good players coming to the league.
Okay.
But in the past, I think, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, last year it was like only Supermassive being good, and I don't think they didn't even make Worlds, right?
They
They
made Worlds. They
Oh,
were in
they
the
didn't.
playing part.
They didn't make official worlds. Yeah, they only made it to play-ins.
yeah, I mean that's not really Worlds, right?
So, interesting, isn't? Like, what about this then? So, what basically, there's about 50 questions local, but I'll just summarize them all into one, which is money the main reason to go to the Turkish league? Like, for example, could you have been in the ULCS in the spring split, but maybe for a worse team? Could you have been in an NA academy team and maybe made good money, but had to work up? Were there other options? And this was actually literally the best option financially. Like, why go to the Turkish league essentially, but with the potential for an open-ended answer?
I mean, EU Academy, first of all, was not an option for me because I've been in the amateur league. Like, when I played in Giants, I played the Spanish league, and I felt like the competition was way too easy, and I was not challenged. And I'm pretty sure that if I would play the Academy League again, it would be the same thing. I would not be challenged, and I would win probably EU Masters and not get any recognition for it. And I mean, when the off season started, I was aiming to only join top teams in Europe because I felt like I'm on the level to win EULCS and potentially make it far in Worlds now. Didn't happen because the off season ended in like one or 2 days without. I mean, people just instantly signed players without any hesitation, and I could have probably joined a lower tier team for like a 2 to 3 year contract, but overall, I'm pretty happy playing in Turkey now. Like, it's a new thing. Like, I've never played in the league, and I've never lived in Turkey. And I mean, I have a shot to go to MSI and Worlds, so I feel like I just need to prove myself next year because I took such a long break. I mean, I have not played competitively for like 5 or 6 months now. So yeah, I'm pretty happy about the change.
Okay. Right. This is a question that Loco wrote down, right? So I'm going to actually ask because it's a question worth answering. But let me preface this by saying, right? So Loco wants to know, is your persona that you portray on Twitter and on desks, is it real? Now, before you answer that, here's the one caveat I would add, which is this. Don't worry, by the way, that if it isn't entirely real, which it really is, that somehow it'll burst the ball by telling people that. Because, like, think of anything in real life. Like, people know politicians lie. They still listen to everything they say. People know wrestling is fake. They still get into the storyline. People know actors aren't the character they play. But if you check Joffrey from Game of Thrones, you still hate him. So, how much is a persona? Or is there like a line that blurs? Do you know where the persona ends and where the person begins?
I'm basically, the question I wanted to ask is, like, on like Twitter, you say stuff like, everyone in EU knows I'm a fucking machine, like, and I was denied a spot. Like, you come off with very, very big bravado, and for like some of the European players, like Forgiven and Froggen, like, whenever I talk to them, like, they genuinely do believe they are the best AD carry in the world, best mid laner in the world, and yeah, like, for Froggen, I don't think it's a persona. For Forgiven, I don't think it's a persona. And you also talk like a huge game. So I'm curious if it's something like that you do to hype up yourself, or is it something like you genuinely do believe?
I truly believe that I am the best player in my role in the world. That's like one thing, because I probably train harder than any other EU jungler out there, probably any jungler in the West, because like, if you compare, I mean, okay, this is hard to say, but yeah, basically, I think I'm the best for sure. And about my Twitter, I really, really like just making provoking tweets because it's just like it's super funny to see the reactions of people and how mad and salty people get about it. It's not really a persona. I definitely do the provoking tweets on purpose. Like, I'm not like this in person, you know. I'm not this guy who will like provoke everyone in front of their face. I just do it for fun, basically.
Okay. Wow, Thor, what's your opinion?
Well, I assume I like that on the question there, right? That's why you should be me, yeah? But okay, fair enough. Here's the thing. No one, like, one of the problems with this topic is the real question is do you have like a conscious persona? Do you craft it, you know? Do you think of the things that you're going to say? Do you avoid saying, like, you know, something nice that you would say because you think, it doesn't really fit with the character? Because, like, as a side topic, pretty much everyone who is a public person has a persona. Like, for example, there are some topics that people will never talk about publicly that they think privately, or just not politically correct things to say at the moment, so they won't say that joke or comment or whatever. So to some degree, everyone who's public has to have a public version of and a private version, but do you kind of like consciously craft it? Is that just like a part of you just on leash? How does it work, do you think?
I mean, privately, I try to be a very nice person and try to, I mean, not piss anyone off, you know. And when I'm on Twitter, I usually just think of things that would piss people off and provoke people. So it's like, yeah, I probably have two personalities, and like I usually find myself on Twitter when I'm pissed off or when I'm salty about something. So I don't know how to explain this, but I could post a lot of positive stuff and intelligent stuff on Twitter, or like motivating stuff for people, but I usually just show the dark side on Twitter.
Okay.
You
Yo,
get me?
Yeah.
So,
Gilius.
and I think people like it, you know. So
Okay. If you genuinely believe you are like the best players, but sometimes like the results don't match up, where you didn't have the best kind of results on Vitality or the best kind of results on United. Like for me, like there was definitely times where I thought I was the best, but whenever like results don't match up with my expectations or what I think of myself, like then I have to kind of like recraft what I think of myself. Maybe like
why do you think I had bad results in Vitality though? Like in the spring split I went to the semifinals and lost to Fnatic, and that Fnatic was basically unbeatable in spring. So I wouldn't say my spring split was bad at all, and we took a game off Fnatic as well. And then in the summer split, my team went to Worlds, you know. So I think this. I think this year was pretty successful for me overall.
Wait a minute. I'm just going to call ahead and call bullshit on all that, right? First of all, hope I don't lag during this part because this is important. First of all, I don't think Loco actually needs to justify the idea that you weren't the best jungler in the world because your team made the final, like the semi-final of the spring split, and then you didn't go with the team to Worlds. Like I think that just alone, I've just said that explains that you weren't the best jungler in the world, unless you have some incredibly extenuating circumstances, which would probably include your teammates being really, really fucking bad at the game. Most people would say your team actually had a player who was better than you called Jizuki, who probably carried your ass, and that when you weren't in the team went to Worlds and looked better without you. So, like, I'm not hating on you. I'm just being like, listen, you're going to have to make a really good case for us if you think you're the best jungler even in Europe in that scenario, right?
How do I answer this one?
because I can see why a player like Caps might say stuff like, "Oh, I'm the best mid laner in the world," or "I'm the best,"
Sure.
like, or Perks would say stuff like, "I'm the best mid laner in the world," because they have somewhat of results to back it up, and they only have to twist the reality a little bit to actually be able to legitimately say, "Oh, I'm the best mid laner in Europe," or like Double If saying, "I'm the best AD carry in NA," where there are potential arguments. While I think you're a good player, I think it's far from. I would not consider you the best jungler in Europe. So when results and like what you say like distance themselves, like, yeah, I'm pretty curious, because if your persona is not like something you put on to hype yourself or to make things more fun, if you genuinely do believe you are the best jungler in Europe, like, I'm kind of curious like how it matches up.
Basically, why do you think you're the best jungler if from the outside it wouldn't look like you were, you know? Do you have a theory or rationale?
I mean, I faced junglers in the league in scrims daily and in solo queue, and I can compare off that, basically. And how do I explain this? I mean, it's if you think you're the best player in your role, it doesn't have to match up with your results, in my opinion. Like
Agreed, yeah.
basically, as example, Faker didn't go really that far this year with his team, and I still think he's probably still the best mid laner in the world, you know. So you can be the best player on your role, but it doesn't mean you have done the best decisions or have done the best like things team wise, you know, to make your team better overall. So
Sure. The funny thing is, Gilius, I'm actually with you on that one. Like, I am someone, if you've ever followed my opinions over the years. I think people can be the best without being on the best team. I think it's even possible in rare cases to be amazing on a really bad team. But the reason why it's interesting is because the person you're talking to, Loco, has a completely different perspective. In fact, I'd actually say, Loco, in this sense, you are quite Korean, which is that Koreans actually do accept results. Like if someone doesn't win, then they assume I wasn't the best. Like I must have done something wrong. They kind of don't have that Western mentality, right?
Well, it would depend on topic to topic. So like for Team Liquid, right? I might consider Team Liquid when they won Spring and Summer. I wouldn't consider all 5 players on that team the best in the world or the best. I would definitely not consider Ole the best. I would definitely not consider Pobelter the best over Jensen or Bjergsen. But there is a lot of tangibility to results and going off the results. And
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, sure.
Then,
But if you would swap me out for, as example, how do I put this? Do you think Fnatic would have less success if they had me as their jungler in the same roster as example? This like for the 2018.
for 2018, I have to say yes, because Broxa played out of his mind. I'm not gonna lie to you.
He played really well. He played really well this year. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you I watched every single EU LCS game. I watched some playoff games and I watched all of finals. So I actually didn't get to see you play at all because it was Kiki's playing. So I don't know exactly how good you are at the moment or how good you were during like the Worlds period, but it is hard to imagine that there was another jungler as good as Broxa, like in Europe at that moment. Like Broxa was fucking insane at Worlds.
I don't think so, man. I think if you put Jankos in his place, it would be the same results as well.
Really, I feel like Janko struggled at Worlds. He was so inconsistent.
Maxwell as well. But like you have to realize how strong Fnatic is as a team. Like look at their roster. Look at this bot lane that is like super consistent and has a playmaker as a support. And then you have Caps who most of the time wins his lane. And then you have 2 really good top laners. I mean, I'm not trying to make up a scenario or something like that. I just mean, I think it's easier to get the results when you have really strong players around you, you know?
For like a Korean thing, I mean, of course, like results speak above everything else because results are results. They're like undeniable. They're results.
Sure.
But I don't think every player that is on a winning team is necessarily the best player. I don't think because Ole won Spring and Summer with Team Liquid, it doesn't make Ole the best support in North America.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, like to be like an absolute top tier player on a losing team, it can definitely happen, but you'll shine like a diamond. Like it'll be like Teddy on Jin Air or something like who is someone like really shitty on a team. Let me try to think if there's like a good North America or European example.
I mean, a classic old school one would be the first time Forgiven was on Copenhagen Wolves and they were like the 6th best team, but he was like a very good AD carry, you know?
Yeah, I mean, or like Lyra that one split with Envious where he was the best jungler in NA, or like Rush on TIP. Like, I feel like if you're the best player, like if you're a top tier player on a shitty team, like it does show, like, and people can still recognize you as like a top tier player, but you're not surrounded by like the best players.
By the way, I didn't mean to call my team shit in Vitality. I think I was on a pretty strong lineup. I just basically in the spring split, when we faced them in the semifinals, I didn't feel like we were strong enough players to beat Fnatic as example. And based off that, I can't back up my claim of being the best, you know? If you say I have to, like at the start you said, if you want to call yourself the best, you have to back it up with results. I didn't feel like the whole roster was like strong enough to compete with Fnatic, you know? But and in the summer split, I mean there was the funnel meta at the start where I couldn't really show anything about jungling, you know?
Yeah, funnel is not a fun time for junglers.
Yeah, and when funnel was gone, Kikis came in, so yeah. Sorry for going back on the topic, but I just wanted to clear it up, you know? Yeah. I think the Vitality roster was pretty strong.
Dorian, do you have another topic for us?
Yeah, I went there a second though. Let me think. What else did I want? Well, okay,
Well, why
before
don't you
we
go to the
finish this one
questions I
up,
fucking set up for you?
because believe it or not, Sam, some of the shite you write in these notes isn't always the best stuff. I don't know if you're aware of that. Like, I know in your mind,
Yeah.
it's weird. He keeps deviating from the scripted every episode. Every episode, the comments like, "Oh, I liked all the banter and all that stuff." It's like no one's ever like, "Oh, the questions
God.
are sick on this fucking
You
show."
can
They obviously
banter,
not.
but like the questions are there because it's like a talk show. Like we talk for 2 hours, like, or we're gonna be running out of like things to say. Like I do the prep work. All you have to
I
do
love the
here.
way he. You know the best part about this game, I guess, is he actually doesn't like. What I love about Loco is he's actually like a newborn baby in the world because everything he doesn't know, he doesn't think exists. Like he thinks about the room, you don't exist anymore. So he doesn't actually realize I've done this for longer than he's done anything in his life. Like he actually thinks that I was joking there and I had no topic whatsoever. Like anyway,
Yeah.
we'll skip
It's
past
about
that.
being creative, man.
Okay.
I know, he doesn't understand that. But anyway, we'll transition from the awkwardness of Loco telling me to read off a fucking piece of paper that he wrote. I mean, at this point, just get another career. I've realised none of you have any personality and that you just knowing some sort of like West Coast slang is your sort of fucking fake vessel version of trying to have a personality. But keep going with that one, mate.
Okay.
So
Okay.
what about this thing, Gilius? Let me ask you this question. Do you actually think, now that you're not an EU player, that franchising is a good thing for the ULCS? Or the LEC as it's now called? What do you think?
I think it will be a good thing on the long run, like in the next 2 to 3 years. But I think, I mean, what I didn't like about franchising is like, it's not that I don't like it, but like owners have like, how do I say this, man? Okay. So basically, most owners and coaches made these rosters, you know, and in the past, players had a big say on who gets on the roster. And I don't know if this has anything to do with franchising. But yeah, I don't know why I'm saying this. But yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think franchising is a great thing for Europe. Yeah.
Well, one thing I kind of want to touch on, like players and owners like making rosters, isn't that or not players, coaches and owners making rosters, isn't that the future? Like, what a player wants is gonna be different from what an org wants, and ultimately, the org owner and like the coaches are the ones making decisions. Like players might want a player that might be better, but might be a little bit more on the toxic side, or might be hard to work with. Or players might want incredibly expensive players that are good, maybe a little bit better than someone that might be cheaper. For owners and coaches, like they are gonna want something, I guess, a little bit more long term and something a little bit more bang for buck, where players just want the best possible team possible. So I do think with franchising in Europe and franchising in NA, like roster building and roster pickup is gonna move towards that way, where
Yeah, I
owners and
guess
coaches have
it's a
more
good
say.
thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't he just ask you a question then? You didn't even answer. You just sat there silently. Look.
Oh wait, what was the question he asked? I'm sorry.
He said then it's a good thing, yeah?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a good thing because
Yeah.
it allows for teams to make long-term plays. Like who the fuck is gonna want to play with a rookie? Like someone like in Gilius's position, who is in like the midterm of their career. Gilius is rather play with someone that's a veteran and someone that can deliver results right away, more so than try to work with a rookie and build him up. While there is benefits to working with a rookie, if I was a player, why would I want a fucking rookie on my team? Why would I not want veterans? Why would I not want veterans that can like perform now with me instead of having someone that we are going to have to build up?
Okay. Right, what do you think on the angle, Gilius? Like, obviously, the problem with this topic I'm going to bring up is it's a very easy excuse for anyone to use who does badly. But it seems like it's a pretty objective statement to say that the role that changes the most in League of Legends is the jungle role, because they have literally redesigned how the jungle itself even works, what the camps are, what the buffs are, what the timings are, almost every single year, pretty much. Like, do you actually like that? Do you want the game to keep changing constantly? Would you? Is there a specific time you would like to have frozen and let's just keep it similar to that?
I mean, it's different. Like as example, AD Carry can like he has worked on his craft for like so many years now, and the champs are usually the same, and they can like always be a top player in their position. But as a jungler, you always have to like learn it again and like keep spamming again. And if you can't keep up with like one crazy patch, then you will just be jobless. So it's like, I think not everyone likes it, but like I personally like it because I train so much. Basically, I just love the game. I play extremely much, so I personally like it. But I can imagine that 90% of the junglers really hate it. You know.
If you're
In
someone,
private
go
though,
ahead.
like just a quick follow up. In private though, like publicly, a lot of them say that or things along that because it's a good way to, like I said, to shield yourself in case you do badly this split and you were a good player last split, for example. But if you talk to like players who are friends of yours who are junglers privately, is that the sentiment among a lot of them? Do a lot of them actually like changing? Do a lot of them complain? What's their like community census behind the scenes?
I mean, depends on personality, I would say. I mean, there's some stubborn people who always like it to be the same, you know, and they're like mad about changes all the time. Or like people who are just lazy and look for excuses, you know. And then there's some people who love just learning new stuff, and yeah, I mean, it's really different from person to person, I would say.
For someone that plays so much, if you're someone that plays a lot of League of Legends and you're a grinder, wouldn't you want the jungle role to not change that much? Because anytime it changes, right, all the work that you previously put in gets reset and it doesn't become as relevant anymore. As someone that like grinds a lot, isn't it better when the game is more static and you can just build up experience and you can build up your skill level instead of it getting reset every year? That's like a common problem like I see with jungle and League of Legends in general, where almost everyone, like kind of like your elo reset, like you don't go back to zero, but everyone does get like a soft reset in skill level because the things you learned last year, while some of them will apply, some of them won't.
I mean, I've been doing this grinding for so many years now that, I mean, every new patch, a different weapon comes in for me, you know, like a champion that I spammed in the past and I can use again. So I don't really mind it, you know. And I think jungle as a role gets to a point where there's a stable meta, and if the jungle would not change like frequently, it would always be the same shit as well. Where basically, as a laner, I think it's nice if things stay the same. Then you can see like really small differences in lane, or someone just plays more like with a higher IQ, you know. But in the jungle, if things stay the same, then it will be better laners win, because if everyone figures out jungle, then it will be better laners win. And if things keep changing in the jungle, then yeah,
You have to keep innovating.
it's really hard for me to talk about this because I mean, imagine like Bengi. How many times did he win worlds?
Twice. Is it three? Season
Yeah.
3. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
three. Yeah.
And then the both times he won worlds, it was like usually the same champs being played. It was like Rek'Sai, Gragas, Lee Sin.
Yeah. Elise,
And,
like Zarya.
I mean, not in season 3, but fair enough. Okay, the last 2 times maybe, yeah.
And then this guy went to the LPL playing without Faker for once, and he got relegated. So it just shows that if you play on the maximum level as a jungler on the same patch, as example on Worlds patches, that you usually end up getting carried as a jungler. That's just how it is. That's how League of Legends works. Like on the maximum level of competitive league, the better laners will make the better jungler, you know. So I don't know how this is in any context with your question, what I just said, but yeah.
The thing is, I've got a take on this topic that I think might be unique, which is like on the angle of like changing the jungle, whether it's a good or a bad thing. Like as an abstract concept outside of like practical concerns and the League of Legends as a game and its health and all those other things that I don't have to worry about, but Riot Games does. Yeah, I think it's terrible. Like one of the things I love about any sport, it's one of the reasons why, for example, CSGO is one of my favorite esports, is because they don't radically change the game. They tweak the game and they do small changes that you might have to adapt to, but you never get everything reset. You never have your role completely changed, and you never basically chuck away things that you knew before that either don't really help now or are completely irrelevant. So I think, like, for example, just like making it go from infinite wards with the ability to clear all the wards, to infinite wards without the ability to clear all the wards, to limited wards, and you can clear some of the wards, like, or the whole team has to place the ward. Like, I think all those changes clearly made the game so that, like, the same jungler who was the best in Season 3, I don't care who it is, could never have been the best every season beyond that. But that's not true for other roles. Like, if you really were the best mid laner in the world, okay, even if they changed the mid lane quite a lot within the context of what they've done now, like different champions or something, or Smite sometimes is used on mid lane champions, you could still be like top 10 no matter what they change. You know, like, it's not going to completely wreck you as a player. The problem with this entire scenario, though, is I actually don't think that Riot did anything in terms of jungle balance based on the pro scene. Like, I could vaguely believe they've changed champions maybe on the pro scene, like, you know, a pro shows how broken a champion can be, maybe. But I think that actually the reason they changed the jungle is purely to keep things fresh in solo queue and give people a reason to keep playing. Because clearly they already do that with the champions, right? That's why they buff and nerf certain champions, so that people are playing new things in ranked next season. You're not playing the same 4 champions in your row for 10 years or whatever. And I understand why they do that, because it's actually a very intelligent move if you just want the casual base to stay big and people to keep playing the game. And crucially, you actually want a reset if you've got a lot of casual fans, because you don't want someone coming in like they would if... So say Loco now has a friend who's never played Korean StarCraft Brood War, the original classic game that took over Korea. If he goes with Loco and he plays Loco, someone who's played Brood War before, or any of the people in the cafe, he's going to be like, this is a waste of time. Not only am I terrible, but you guys have been playing the game for 10 years. Like, what's the point in me even playing? Like, I'm never going to be vaguely close. Now, sure, you could say it's a loser's mentality or whatever, but that's what a casual player is going to think. He's going to think, what can I play now that if I jump in, I won't win, but I have a chance, I can have some fun. So if you tell him, you know what, the season's come to the end in League, but next season starts in, like, 2 months, and they'll reset a lot of the meta and different things. So wait until then, hop in, check like pro builds or what, I don't know what the sites are called nowadays. Check whatever site it is for the best build. Like, it'll be on there, and you can get started. You can have some fun initially. I think that's actually, for the casual scene, probably a good thing. And I also think the last thing I'll say is, in games like CSGO, because the game doesn't change much, the way you balance the game is the same as in Brood War. You change the map. The map is what you balance the game with. Obviously, in League, you only have one map, it's just Summoner's Rift. So people understand the concept that they change the champions to balance the game. I think they do that with the jungle for the same reason. I think they just try to make the meta different. Because the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I know a lot of people, I do it myself, get into the world of thinking of, like, because we're in esports, we only think of how things affect esports. So I've heard a lot of people make theories of, like, oh, maybe Riot wanted Worlds to be like this, so Western teams had a better chance, and they wanted, individual players to shine. Like, you are giving Riot way too much credit, and you also imagine that they're prophets who can see in the future. Like, think of some of the stuff Riot did in the past. That's why Korea got impossible to beat, because they limited vision, so then Koreans had the best vision control, so they win by default already. Then they changed all the stuff, like, they changed it. Remember that change they made where the meta was literally both teams go and knock down the top tower and then the game starts. It was in season 4,
2v1,
like in spring. There's no way Riot knew that was how competitive would play when they made that change. They thought it would be a totally different change, So because that was when they had, like, I think it was like the first tower was weaker or something, you got like a first blood bonus for it or some dumb shit like that, right? So the point there is, I don't think Riot can really actually see into the future on what the pro scene will be like, and I personally don't think they balance big changes around it anyway. So even though it's an interesting question to ask, it's kind of just an abstract anyway. Like, we're never going to get through to Riot on that one. I think they'll always keep changing the jungle, and sadly, I think it sucks, mate. But it's just unfortunately a reality of being a jungler. I think you have to learn your craft all over again every year.
Well,
I have no issue with it, actually.
I mean, they didn't change almost anything at all for jungle this season. In the preseason, there's no jungle changes from season 8 carrying over to season 9, so we are going to get a season with very, very little jungle changes. On that topic, Gilius, what do you think about the current jungle meta? Because I think it's very simplistic, and there's almost no decision making. Your decision making is, I fight for crab, and then I go for ganks, and then I constantly fight the other person. I think jungle pathing efficiency has died down a lot, and it's been more and more so about just fighting. And champions like Camille, Xin Lee Sin, these champions that can skirmish early and constantly fight other people and put pressure is the only ones that are valuable. There's almost like no benefit to really farming or having efficient jungle pathing.
Yeah, basically it's all about fighting and pressuring crap. So I mean, I personally really like this meta because it's all about individual skill in the jungle. You know, like the enemy jungler, like if he decides to farm it up for the first 4 minutes, then the game is over. Like he basically lost, and you're forced to go into skirmishes with each other. Like there's so many 2v2s and 1v1s in the early game, and I personally really like the interaction, like interacting with the enemy jungler, because I usually outplay them, and I'm better than them.
Didn't jungle kind of used to be like a chess match where you plan out your moves, you plan out their moves, and then you try to take camps, and then you have the most efficient jungle pathing possible? I feel like it's been that way for such a long time, and you have to be calculated before you take ganks. But nowadays, you don't have to calculate. Like, if a gank is possible, you should go for it. Even if it doesn't work, long as you get a kill somewhere, like, you just catch up so much on XP, where I see so many situations in competitive games, solo queue, where people are down like 40, 50 CS, and they're equal in level and have better items due to the gold you get for kills and shutdowns.
Yeah, I mean, I still think on the highest level, maybe as a spectator it looks like it, but it's still little chess moves all the time, where a level 2 gank might look like just going for a kill or going for something random, but the good junglers do like these random looking ganks based off information, and basically it's about the enemy jungler also showing information. Like the top tier junglers will not all the time show on wards or have a predictable pathing every game. So I mean, it's but I know what you mean. Yeah, it's a bit more chaotic now for sure, but there's still some sense to a lot of stuff, I think. Like, as example, like if you watch the World's Finals,
The
like,
ward placements, right? And like Ning sneaking around with Camille to get
yeah,
the
exactly.
ganks. Yeah.
Yeah, this guy was super smart about everything, so you could see a jungle difference there.
Okay. By the way, Gilius, do you watch any LCS much?
I try to avoid NLTS, but sometimes when solo queue times are really high, I just watch some games for fun. Yeah.
Okay. Right, never mind that then.
Why do you try to
Yes.
avoid NALCS?
He's just memeing, isn't he? He's obviously not interested. I don't know if you're aware of this, Loco. Like, this is probably... I notice people from NA are always astounded by this information, but you do realise if you're not from NA, there's basically no reason to watch the NALCS. Like, just watch your own reason. Or do you want to watch really good League of Legends? Watch Korea. Now, why would there ever be a reason beyond that to watch the NALCS? Go on, give me some reason.
Alright. I will say, because I'm from NA, I do watch NA, and primarily the league I watch outside of NA would be LCK. I think there was like brief moments in history where NA did innovate a little bit faster than other regions, like Soraka thing or the 2v1 thing from CLG. But other than that, like, yeah, in general, NA hasn't been a great reason to watch if you're not from NA.
Like, I don't blame people. You know, if you're from NA, I understand why you'd have a connection to it, why you might want to watch it, but there's not really any logical reason for anyone else to watch it. Like,
But the best teams in the world play here. TSA.
Definitely not. In fact, you know what? One of the things I've always thought was a bit tilt-worthy is whenever people bring up that topic of like, why does the ULCS broadcast do worse than the NLCS? There's about 50 reasons, all of which have nothing to do with any being better. But one of the worst reasons, I think, entirely, that is always ignored, is look at how fucking depleted the EULCS casting talent has been for most of history. Meanwhile, NA just has the same casters that everyone loves. Like, I think casters actually make up for bad games so much it's unreal in League of Legends. So I think that's one reason why people are a bit biased and prefer it in that sense. Like, what about this? Because the problem is I wanted to do like a tangent there where we'd rate some players, but the problem is you don't watch ELCS and he doesn't watch NLCS. So it's not really any point doing it. We can't really debate if people aren't like super passionate about the specific players, you know. So what about this instead? Let's go into a spicier topic. which is, speaking of junglers and junglers who speak their minds and who have big personalities, one of the all-time legends in that category from NA is, of course, Saintvicious, the former jungler of CLG and TSM and Curse and a few different teams, and obviously for the last few years a coach in different capacities for a whole bunch of different teams. And more recently, we just had the guy on an episode actually, he was the FlyQuest GM, Nick Fan, said, I've signed it to Vicious, you know, he's going to be one of my coaches. And he hasn't even got to coach a game yet, because when he was streaming, as a throwaway comment, for some bizarre reason, he decided to give his opinion that depression, anxiety, and I think even threw ADHD in there, are all fake. And he also said something along the lines of, like, you know, you just sort of man up. It's basically like kind of a, it's not even a pretty original opinion. It's just a very standard ignorant opinion that people tend to have when they don't know anything about these topics, and they just think, well, since it's never affected me, probably just a bunch of bullshit, isn't it? Like, that's kind of what he was doing there. Now, obviously, that was like, it blew up pretty big. I know people didn't see it on Reddit because those kinds of threads get deleted nowadays, but people were going ham about it. He got a mad backlash online about it, and it was always obvious he was going to get in a lot of trouble. And quite frankly, since he's on an NA team, and particularly if you saw the episode we had with Nick Fan, FlyQuest, just like teams like Echo Fox and Golden Guardians, push so hard on that angle of, like, we are Disney Corporation and we are a family-friendly business. Like, they don't seem to be aware we're playing a fucking video game for teenagers. So I knew he was fired the second he said that, because that's just the standard way in NA you deal with these things. So he's basically been fired for those comments, even though he has now apologised, whether it was honest or not. So initial first thoughts, what did you think about this, Gilius? As someone who himself has been a bit spicy, as comments that probably have upset people, what do you think of this as a general topic? Like, Saint making the comments and getting fired over it?
I mean, when I first, when I watched the clip of him saying these things, and he was saying that, like, anxiety, like he doesn't believe in anxiety and depression, I first thought he's gonna say something positive, basically something like, try to fight these things, like, these things are in your head, you know. And then when he started saying that these things are fake, or like, what did he say?
Made up.
Yeah, made up. Then I think he pretty much fucked up, you know. But like, I have a question, because like, what is really depression and anxiety? If it's like, if doctors like proved it, like, I have no idea about the stuff, because like, can you guys maybe explain it to me? Like, what is anxiety?
So there is like, anxiety is there's like, I guess, like an English definition and a medical definition. I don't know the medical definition, but I would imagine medical definition something of like having extremely like nervous feelings, or like shutting down in certain environments. So for example, like, I actually do have social anxiety. When I'm around too many people that I don't know in a public place, I definitely do get social anxiety, like a minor version of it. And depression, there is also a medical term. I think the depression one is where there are certain chemical imbalances that can cause depression, and that's like the, like, I'm not a doctor, but there is like a, if you have this chemical imbalance and this thing happens repeatedly over and over again, or if you're put into this kind of state, yeah, there is like medical definitions for it.
Okay,
So.
Thanks, man. Okay, yeah, I think well, what he said is completely fucked up, and but I think it's a bit. Is it a bit too harsh that he got fired? Like, I have no idea, you know.
Well, let me give my thoughts. I'm sure Doran has like huge fucking opinions on this. I think, like, knowing Saint, he is someone that actually like supports players and that like helps people get better. But Saint's a little bit rough around the edges, and his opinions on this were definitely like the wrong side of history kind of thing. I think like in 10, 20 years, like, no one's going to say stuff like, oh, depression isn't real, anxiety isn't real, ADHD isn't real. Like, just put his foot in the mouth. And I actually feel like really bad for Saint, because I think he did a lot of great things for FlyQuest in summer, and they did make a lot of improvements. And what he said isn't a representation of himself as a whole of a person, but I feel like he got witch hunted a lot for putting his foot in the mouth, where he should have just kept his mouth shut on a subject he isn't too informed or in a best place to speak about. I mean, you were laughing, Doran. Like,
I was laughing because like you thought this was going to be straight fire because like, oh, it's Gilius, he's going to say anything, but like that's why that persona question I guess was a good one because he didn't know what he's like. Like there was no chance in a million years he was going to touch this with a barge pole. That's why he basically asked you, someone who has no medical background, to explain to him what all those terms were, so he could go, oh, thank you, and then in doing so, show that he like doesn't know anything about it. As a result, well, you know, I don't really know anything about it, so yikes, I guess I can't say things. What do you think? Over you, Loco, you have a chance at losing your career. Like, you know, like the problem with this topic is there's two aspects. I broke it down in the question. The question is, one, what do you think about Saint's comments? That's a separate topic. The second part is, what do you think about him being fired? So on the first part, Saint's comments, it's a complicated topic because first of all, like when you said, Gilius, like, you know, doctors proven this or whatever, like, in a way, but in as much as they treat it and they call these terms depression, anxiety, ADHD, etc., but people might not be aware of this who've never looked into this topic. But actually, almost every single one of those conditions actually have many people in the world who do not in Saint's manner either, like legitimately criticize it. Like you will find a lot of people who think that, for example, like depression medication, some people think it makes you worse or it keeps you in a bad state or something, you know, which is obviously like quite a controversial opinion for people who think it works for them or that it helped them out of a bad situation. So I think the opinions are a bit more varied than people would realize from mainstream media. Likewise for ADHD, I know a lot of people, that's probably the least controversial one for people to even call out and say they think it's fake and it's a product of, you know, the modern world or whatever the hell, I don't know what people's usual background is. I think people usually blame stuff like, you know, like too much internet and being on your own and all that sort of guff like that, and people having sort of no impulse control is what people blame that on usually. I would suspect, as someone again who is not a medical professional, has no basis in any of this, I would personally suspect there's probably some sort of a real phenomenon for every single one of these, but then it gets blurred by the fact that, much like Saint himself did, people hear about something and don't quite know what it is, and then think, I think I've got that. It's actually a very famous thing about the internet. I'm sure you've all heard of this meme where like people will go and they'll feel ill and they'll start typing the symptoms into like WebMD or whatever.
Oh, yeah,
and then they'll find some really extreme thing,
yeah.
and then they'll all start doing that thing where they start going like, high blood pressure. That's me. Shortness of breath. Oh my God, I've got that. You know, they're like, in that scenario, they might have something wrong with them, but they've just like, their brain's playing tricks on them, making it think it's worse. So the real problem there is the sheer amount of people who say they have all these things is why I think some people are skeptical, because they think, can really all these people have it? Which is why I think people like say, just imagine that it's too easy an excuse for someone who might not have it, but might think, oh, I'm just not very good around people, or, you know, I feel really bad with my life. And so, sadly, I think that ties into what you said about his personality being like rough around the edges. I would just say overly blunt. And so his problem is, he could have said almost everything he said there, but if he'd have said it in like much softer language, like for example, I personally am skeptical about the nature of these things, and I believe they haven't been fully proven. And personally, I think perhaps some kind of a stoic philosophical background where someone attempts to face the harshness of the world and not retreat into themselves using medication or therapy. Like if he'd have done it like that, it might have still been mildly controversial, but he could have easily like sort of moonwalked his way out of it. His problem is when he basically said like it's fake, man up, which carries the implication of like, you know, you're kind of a bitch because you feel like, the problem is the way he phrased it was just like, because it was throwaway gamer talk, it was just a bit too harsh. So unfortunately, I don't think people actually responded just to what he said as much as the tone they thought was way dismissive, and then everyone who personally felt like they'd ever experienced any of those things felt personally attacked or addressed or whatever, and as a result, you're going to get an insane backlash off that. Like my personal thoughts on all those topics is that, like I say, I think there probably are conditions that if they aren't those exact things, they're quite similar. I am skeptical about how many people say they've actually experienced them, because for example, I haven't experienced anxiety in the way that you were describing, but the traditional sense rather, and obviously ADHD I wouldn't say I have, but I've definitely had depression, and I know that when I had that very briefly in my life at one point in time, I don't think it was something you could just like buck your ideas up and get out of. It wasn't really that simple. In fact, I would almost say that's almost a definition of depression, like you're in a spiral where you can't get out of it, and then there's perhaps a physical component that also doesn't allow you to get out of it. But the social anxiety one's the interesting one to me, because I personally would have described myself maybe like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I would have said I had social anxiety, because if I ever went to like a club setting or a bar setting, I was never comfortable just talking to people. So what I would do was I would get like at the very minimum to like a nice buzz, and then I would just talk to people, because everyone knows alcohol actually inhibits the parts of your brain that make you, for example, afraid to be outgoing and to say things that are a bit silly. You overly might think about things, and that shuts it off. But I will say, through applied effort and changing my mindset, I was able to radically change that. That's why I became someone who's non-camera personality. So I don't think it's as simple as thinking like clinical depression that perhaps is hormonal can be overcome by that. I don't know if that's the case. I imagine maybe like CBT, it's called cognitive behavioral therapy, things like that might be able to help, but that someone might need medication. But regardless, I think Saint probably, obviously knows fuck all about the topic, probably made it way too black and white, probably mixed up a bunch of things that he just doesn't know the nuance of. So he thought that like maybe he knows someone who thinks is faking it, and there's just someone he knows and he's using an excuse. He can't know these things because we'll never get the answers, because sadly he can never talk about this topic again. And then on the angle of him actually getting fired over it, that's the part I have a problem with. Like, one of the big problems I have with the modern era is the idea that, like, words are magical entities, like genies, and as soon as you let them out the bottle, they can never go back in, and if you've said something horrible, forever you must apologize every day of your life. No. If you're in a setting where you say something mean to like, think about when you're with a family or a friend, right? And you get really annoyed at them, and then they start arguing with you, and it spirals up, and you say something really horrible. Like, so for example, a little kid might say, like, I hope you die, to his parents. Now, he doesn't have to now apologize for the rest of his life for saying his parents are going to die. Like, people understand, you say that in the heat of the moment. So as long as you then apologize, show remorse through your behavior, act like a reasonable person, people will eventually forget about that and say, okay, we'll forget about that incident, we'll move on with our lives and assume you have learned from that. Sadly, with things said on the internet, people refuse to do that. Like, people want it to be as bad as possible. They want you fired, they want you to have a really horrible time. They basically think it's a good loophole, by the way, to also bully people. I've noticed that. Like, oh, this person said something bad, therefore I can just be a piece of shit to him, and that's fine. Like, that's fucked up. Like 7,000 wrongs don't make another wrong right, do they? Like, it just means we've got 7,001 wrongs now. So that whole topic to me is a mad clusterfuck, because in my opinion, the apology he gave should have sufficed. Like, the apology he gave seemed pretty, whether you believe it or not, said all the right things that people would claim they'd want to hear from an apology. So the idea that he now just can't work in the LCS, that seems like bullshit to me, like, especially because he never said at the beginning, like, I've researched this topic a lot, and I consider myself an expert on depression, and I've got to tell the world it's fake. Like, no, he even said at the beginning, like, alluded to the fact, clearly by the way he was talking, that he doesn't really fucking know anything about the topic. He's busy streaming a fucking video game, giving throwaway opinions. Like if he'd have said at the same time, by the way, I think you guys should also invest in Tesla stocks. You wouldn't have run out and fucking invested, would you? You go, I don't think Saintvicious knows anything about the stock market, but bizarrely, you get incredibly upset about a former professional video game player giving his stupid ass, ignorant, 1 second thinking about it opinion on an incredibly complicated, nuanced, and quite frankly, not entirely charted area of the human fucking psyche and brain processing power. Like, I'd go ahead and just write all opinions he has off about your brain and outright function. So personally, I wouldn't get that offended by it, even though, as I said, I myself have had depression in my life. So it's a complicated topic, but there you go. Like a free throwing thoughts video.
One thing I do have to agree with you on is a lot of people that had personal vendettas against Saint jumped super hard on
him. Of course. That's sadly also part of the modern thing about rage culture, mate, is that people want to fuck you over go, finally, my time. It's like the fucking, like,
call-out culture.
Ideas or whatever, like, at last our time, we will reveal ourselves to Saintvicious and destroy him completely. Like, all right, mate, calm down.
Yeah.
People go too far with that shit, don't they?
Another thing is, I think there's a chance Saint might have been tipsy or even drunk when he said it, because I know Saint likes drinking boxed wine when he streams. Like,
sure.
So I'm not sure. Like, I just feel really fucking bad for Saint, because, yeah, he just put his foot in his mouth. Like, oh my god, Saint. Idiot.
By the way, anyone who's going to say, here's one thing I'll never accept though. Anyone who just says, like, see, that's why you shouldn't say things like that. Like, that's like when people say, oh, you shouldn't make jokes that offend people. How the fuck would any human being know what joke offends every other human being on the planet? Because remember, that's the problem with the internet. In the past, right, if I'm in a room with a bunch of friends, I can get to know those people who know what the room temperature of the room is and the tone. If I just say something and it's broadcast on the internet, and even worse, it's not even just the people who see it, but people are going to actually take a clip go to people who would be offended by it, who didn't see it, and tell them, look at this. Doesn't this really offend you? Then they get offended and go, I'm really offended by this. Like, at that point in time, everyone's a fucking idiot in this world. Like, what is this system we've created? It's terrible. That's why I call social media an Orwellian term. It's fucking anti-social media. It teaches you to be incredibly antisocial and to not ever communicate what you actually think, and to actually have to be treated as though every random tweet and thought you express publicly can be judged by every human being who currently exists. What a pathetic premise.
This is actually a great topic because, like, for me personally, I'm someone that was very like outspoken and just spoke my mind, and recently, like throughout the years, like I toned it down a little bit due to sponsorship requests, like working with big teams and them asking me to tone it down, and then just thinking of like future for my brand. I thought it'd be better if I can still be educational, if I can still be entertaining without all the rough around the edges. Like Doran and Gilius, you guys are someone that are very like outspoken, that are very like rough around the edges and say whatever the fuck you guys want sometimes, especially like Doran. Like, don't you find it hard to like maybe get the most broad sponsorship or get the most opportunities, like due to some of the stuff like you guys have said and are currently saying?
What do you think, Gilius?
I mean, I asked a coach of a top team why they didn't sign me for this year, and he told me that the organization was scared about my tweets, like to basically not get them a sponsorship, you know, and like they basically thought that the way I'm trash talking in the off season and like going over the edge is going to be the same in season, so they didn't want to deal with that bullshit. But like if an organization would tell me stop tweeting bullshit, then I can instantly stop. But basically that's where the first time for me basically that it like hit me.
Now, the obvious problem with that scenario, and I'm just going to fucking say it because who gives a fuck, right? Is like that is also the easiest excuse to give you personally if you're like, why didn't I get in the team then? Oh, shit. Social media, they were just afraid about your social media and that, but I would have stopped tweeting if you just said it all. Oh, shit, if I'd only known that way, we just signed the guy. So anyway, we've got moved though. You know, that old Korean guy, he's in the team. So I think it all worked out for everyone. Like, come on, man. Like, I could believe that's true on some level. Like I say, some NA orgs maybe wouldn't like it if you trash talk. That's probably true. But, like, that's a tough one. No, here's the problem with that one is, like, if this was, like, 6 months ago, Loco, I'd give you a very different answer. Like, I'd tell you, you know, the way I branded myself in the past. Like, first of all, one thing that does hold true now is that I've never worried about if it costs me a sponsor to give my, like, rough opinion about esports stuff. Because actually, I think one of my roles in esports is there are so many people who are full of shit and don't say what they actually think that I specifically have always wanted to be someone who just gives actual thoughts. So in terms of esports games, I'll always give my opinion. And in fact, I have purposely branded myself that way. And as a result, I don't get certain sponsors, I've no doubt, but I get different sponsors. Hence why I've gone sort of even the edgy sponsor route of I always go with gambling companies, or I go with, you know, that's like I go with people where like follows like, it makes sense, you know.
All right, let me cut you a little bit short before you finish your thought. Aren't you limited on the kind of sponsorship that you can get? Like, realistically, like, these are comments I've gotten when I've been looking for sponsorships for the show, where, like, someone like Travis, while their show is definitely not as entertaining or good as ours.
Travis will never make 1 year what I make in a year. That's not even. I'm not even saying that to brag.
Okay.
It's an absolute fact. If he compared his bank account to mine, it's better. Now that's not all from sponsorship in this scenario.
Yeah.
And also, by the way, Travis is garbage at getting sponsors. That's why he has to cry every minute right before Worlds. Like, please, guys, remember when the newer shocks. There won't be the 17th newer shocks. Just I've got a sponsor. Laptop opens. Oh, hello, welcome to Worlds, everyone. I'm a player I don't know from Korea. You're good, aren't you? Like. And that's a short version. You don't need to watch season fucking 9 Worlds there. I've said that for you. Go on, look what you can say.
Damn, I tried my best to not burn bridges, but we got you for that one.
Well, it's not like we're bringing Travis as a fucking guest on this show, are we? He can barely guest on his own show.
Oh my god. Okay, anyways, but like Travis could get like the PC sponsors, like, or not the PC, publicly correct sponsors, or politically correct, like ones that want to sponsor for all ages. Sure. Like, let's say Disney wanted to sponsor a show. They wouldn't sponsor us because some of the stuff that you say, maybe some of the stuff I've done in the past, like Disney wouldn't sponsor us. But Disney would sponsor Hotline League because they are, like, non-controversial, and they don't say stuff like that. So while currently you might make more money than Travis, whenever the bigger and the bigger and the bigger sponsors get in, isn't there a day where the more PC and like the more broadened and like the bigger sponsors are going to pay a lot more, and we're not going to have access to those kind of sponsors, and we can only get access from like the gambling sites or like the edgy sponsors?
No, because here's the thing. There's two factors to this. I'll make this a quick answer. One is, have you noticed how the fact that you had to go to Travis basically kills your argument dead? That's why I said I made more money than him, because it's just, if you're going to talk about how successful people being sponsors, well, yeah, he absolutely has not proven that he can get loads of sponsors, and that because he's so safe, he's got all the big sponsors. He's actually done pretty fucking badly with that. So I would say, first of all, that one of the reasons I've been very successful individually is entirely related to my personality in this particular sense. Like, I think it's a very unique branding element that I'm like this in that way. So I actually think you can only become a really big name if you have some of that in you. I would actually say that's one of the things that held Travis back. You know, once upon a time, Travis had something like 10 times the Twitter followers I do. Mm-hmm. I think he's like, he must be like 50K, 100K behind now or something. Like, I think actually Travis is a good example of someone who too bland. Like, he's decent at what he does, and at times he can be good if you give him the right interview subject or the right show. Does a good job, but I don't think he's like knocking it out. Like, here's the thing, Loco, you're actually right. If your premise was correct, he should be killing it. He should be making like $500,000 a year. Like, he should have all the sponsor deck lined up. He's the most family-friendly guy. He gets people who are a little bit edgy, but they even know when they come on his show, don't be too edgy, you know, it's my show. Like, he's done a very good job in that sense. But actually, I don't think he's done super-duper well off that approach. I think it took him to a certain level, didn't take him any further. Now, my approach has taken me to a certain level, hasn't taken me any further too. But here's the key thing. If you offered me a year, but I'm not allowed to make any jokes, and I'm not allowed to offend anyone, I wouldn't take the $1 million, mate, because what would I get out of doing the show? What, $1 million? There's more to life than $1 million, you know. I want to actually enjoy the show. I want the show to be interesting. I want Gilius to say something, and I don't want to go, all right, so you are the best player, right? Okay, well, I'm next on my notes. Which player, like, I want to be able to go, no, I think you're probably full of shit, and if you are the best player, you know, like, you have to be able to clap back, otherwise, what's the interest in doing the show? Anyway, the point I was going to get to before is, in the past, my philosophy was like, it's actually a very famous quote from a poem by Robert Frost, and it goes, the way out is through. So if you get into trouble, you just keep going with what you've been doing, you keep going, you don't stop, because the problem with a lot of people when they get into trouble is they stop and they apologize and they try to go backwards, and then they're just stuck in no man's land. You keep going through, you make that part of your strength and your branding, and you just keep going down that route, and you try to be the most successful with whatever limitations you get and strengths you have in that particular sense. Now, where that changed is, you notice I stipulated at the beginning of the answer, I only give my blunt opinions on esports, because on esports, I would actually consider myself one of the foremost experts in the world. And actually, none of the things I say about esports are truly edgy. They're only edgy in a world of people who are all just like, well, time to give the opinions I'm allowed to give on camera and nothing else. Like, to them, it seems edgy because I'm the only one doing it, so I stand out in that sense. In the real world, not a single thing I say on a League of Legends show is particularly controversial. Like, oh my God, did you hear this guy thinks that the 5th best video game player who farms computer creeps is actually the 3rd best? Whew. Tell you what, it was a fucking crazy night. Who gives a fuck? So there's nothing even controversial about that, is there? Like, people write newspaper columns saying people should be hung who are criminals and stuff. Like, there's a lot of edgier stuff in the world that's accepted. So I would just say on that front, what I had to learn was, because unfortunately of the political climate in America, I will probably never comment on anything outside of video games again. Because that's not worth it. That is just gambling with your career, I'm afraid. As Saint found out, sadly. So what I was trying to get to there is, if you're Saint, just don't make any jokes, mate. Keep it all related to League, keep it all related to esports, don't say anything about any other area, because it doesn't even matter if you just say it as a throwaway comment. You're just gambling, you're just playing Russian roulette, basically. Except you don't even win anything, you just stay alive.
Yeah,
and
play stupid game, win stupid prizes.
Now, the problem with that, though, Loco, which ties into what you were saying, is, like, the difference is, in League of Legends context, I can still be entertained and all the rest of it, etc., but you can't actually be funny if you censor yourself trying to make jokes, because no one knows what joke's funny, no one knows what joke lands. I don't know if people are aware of this. If you make a joke, the joke isn't complete until the other person reacts to it. Like, a professional comedian could say a joke that kills one room and has no effect on the other one. Yeah. Now, if it has no effect on the one room, he's going to change up his style. If it kills, he's going to keep going with that approach. On the internet, you have no way to gauge the feedback before you've said it. So how can you know if it's going to offend or upset someone?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's why us as dynamic works so well, because I find a lot of things you say like shocking, and I'm like, oh my fucking god, did he actually say that? Like, a lot of the reactions I do to like the stuff you say like isn't fake. It is just like mind blowing
Sure.
sometimes, because like trying to grow as a content creator and trying to grow as like someone in the space, like I find it so fucking hard to just speak my opinion sometimes, and there are so many
course,
lines
yeah.
that you have to bounce around, so many politics that you have to play, and yeah, you just don't give a fuck, and you just say it. You just vomit out words sometimes, and I'm like, why are you saying this?
Because it's straight fire, mate. That's why people are watching.
Okay.
Here's another thing, okay? The key thing I also learned, because I actually took this from professional wrestling, is like the whole point of how professional wrestling on television works, right? Is you still watch even if the heel, the bad guy, insults you, right? You don't go, well, he's insulted me, I'm going to turn this fucking off. No, you keep watching because I hate that guy, I'm going to root against him. Then the guy you like comes on, oh, I love this guy, I hope he wins. Like, it's actually important to actually care about what even the guy you don't like is like. So that's a key concept if you understand it, because as I say, I have branded myself. I'm not trying to be the fucking hero and have everyone love me. I don't think that would even work anyway. It'd be like I'd be fucking bottom of the list, wouldn't I? I wouldn't be particularly charismatic, but I can fucking sell like a heel. I can sell the shit out of some of those opinions, mate.
Gilius, to loop you
Yeah.
kind of into this, are you gonna continue like having, I guess, like being yourself on Twitter and making those kind of tweets, like even after like maybe, as Doran said, an org made an excuse to not pick you up, or if they might have not picked you up for different reasons or whatever, like is this gonna hinder you in the future in terms of like you speaking your mind and like how you behave on Twitter?
I'm 100% gonna stop being myself, yeah, because the way it currently is in the LCS, people don't accept being like how do I explain it? Having the risk of like a player saying something out of line, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I will just use my social media to just tweet about the league, you know,
Mm-hmm.
about my matches. Tweet if I stream, and that's it basically, yeah. And if I stop playing one day and only stream, then I can just say whatever I want basically.
Damn, that's
And
actually
I think
kind of
that's the best way to do it, yeah.
damn. That's kind of sad because I was on the receiving end of your shit talk once when you did compete in Challenger Series, and I thought it was BM, but I will admit, like, it made the match so much more hype, and I definitely prepped harder, and I was like, oh my god, like,
For sure, man.
when I see Gilius at the studio, I'm gonna fucking shit talk him. I'm gonna shit talk Broken Shard. I'm gonna shit talk Hermit. I'm gonna shit talk the entirety of United. And when we win, I'm gonna shit talk them even more. Like, it definitely made it more fiery. And I wish shit talking and like trash talking in League of Legends and like just having a persona was more accepted. Like, it's so shitty unless like you're the absolute best. Like, you can't shit talk at all, or like you can't. Yeah, like, I think there's like few people that are allowed because they built the brand off of it. I actually thought of
Yes.
yourself as one person that would be allowed, but I would think players like Perked, players like
I
Cap.
think he is someone who is, but he's just choosing not to, is his point, and perhaps it's because of the off-season thing. I would have agreed with you, look. I think he's done a good job branding himself. Like, actually, I mean, I'll give you real talk, Gilius. You know how I am, mate. I think you're an average LCS jungler. You're all right. You're not fucking anything special. When you had a good team, you did well. What a fucking surprise. When you had a bad team, you garbage. What a fucking surprise. It's almost like you're just an okay player. But doing the trash talk and having the persona made you way more relevant and way more interesting. Now, that probably, I won't say it, if you're trying to just be a winner as a player, I don't think it's going to get you into better teams. I think you actually have to be a better player to do that. But I think for fan engagement, it's a really good move. But I can absolutely understand why you might not want to do it, especially if you think it actually impacts the team options you have. Because as a player, that's one of your main important things is teams want to have you.
I'm only players like Perked, only players like Double Lift, only players like Caps, Imp and Piglet. Like, these are the only players that are allowed to shit talk. Anyone else not allowed to shit talk. And even when the allowed players shit talk and they lose, like, the whole community just turns on them. Like, people turning on Double Lift after Worlds, people turning on Perked after Worlds. Like, is that what the community wants? They don't want anyone to like speak their mind, like trash talk, like hype up matches. It is a very weird direction where League fan base is moving in, where yeah, like we don't celebrate winners as much, and we love just like shitting on people for trash talking.
Sadly, I actually think that is probably the worst trend change in League of Legends over the years that I've followed it. Because I actually, I think I started watching in season 2, and then I really heavily started in season 3. But I was like following the scene a bit in season 2 as a journalist. And I have to say, one of the things that's been the most depressing about League of Legends is that as the years go by, you're allowed to do less and less and less and less and less of all those things, of talking trash, all the rest of it. Now, on one level, if I didn't know about politics, I would just blame Riot, because Riot obviously did heavily push the angle of like, if you're toxic, we're going to fucking punish you, and you should be like a positive person, and all this bullshit, which I personally think is way over the line in terms of like what a video game company should be having an impact on my life. But the problem is, it's not even just Riot anymore. Like in the modern world, the political climate, and especially for social media, is as hot as it has ever been. And so for everyone, it's super dangerous right now, no matter what field you're in. So then if you add in video games where you have an extra set of people watching it, and they're all very young and therefore could misconstrue things, it gets even more dangerous. But the one area I do get a bit pissed off in is like, it's one thing if you actually get a massive mob of people who are like, you must fire this person, but I hate it when companies do it before that even happens. Like they just by default fire someone, or they just punish someone super harsh when they haven't even necessarily had to do that. Like, I don't like it when you sort of give in to the mob in that particular way, or you self-censor yourself, It's like, it just makes the game fucking suck a bit. Because here's the thing that tilts me. I know in League of Legends, the fan base, there are a lot of girls who play League of Legends, there are a lot of kids who play League of Legends, but esports in general is realistically something for people who are like 18 to 25. It's like a young adult to adult thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like these, like in theory, Counter-Strike's not even supposed to be sold to people under 16. Like, it's supposed to be an adult game. So I wish it was more like the fucking UFC. Because in the UFC, they have all the trash talk in the world because it's marketed as this is for adults. Mm-hmm. It's not your fucking Disney-friendly thing. It's people punching each other in the face. For me, the video games are the same thing. The object in the game is like destroy the opponent, fucking destroy his base, kill him, kill his teammates, wreck him, trap him with CC, use all your fucking damn... So we can do all these things, but we can't say, haha, I think you are shit while I am fucking freezing you with this pixie while that massive fucking goat smashes you in the face with a cane. They go, oh my God, did he say that he's shit? It's like, Sam, this is a fucking great game.
I mean, yeah, that's the funny thing about esports and like the esport communities, and maybe even like outside of esports is people actually aren't that PC, or outside of the internet in general. Like I notice like hanging around non-esports people, like the way they speak and like the way they say stuff. Like, one of my friends said the F word all of a sudden, and he said it. He's not someone that's homophobic, or he's not someone that's very like believes in that kind of stuff. He just said the word. I'm like, dude, you can't say stuff like that. And he's like, why? I'm like, well, the first thing that came to my mind is like, what the fuck is your owner gonna say? Like when you hear like you said something like that. I'm like, wait, he's just like a normal person. Like he doesn't have like an owner, and he doesn't like have a Twitter following. Like, and this whole like not being allowed to say certain words, not being allowed to say certain things, and being very, very policed is like, I guess like a negative and also a privilege of being in esports. Like the privilege of being in esports and having all the attention and being paid a high salary comes with the negatives of like, yeah, like some of your language and some of your online behavior being very, very heavily policed.
Yeah.
That's also kind of what I said before, though, about the fact that everyone in esports, like, here's the funny thing. People like me and Gilius can basically tell you if we have a persona or how we think about it or what we tried to do to make it interesting or when we use it and when we don't, etc. The real problem in esports is that everyone else in the world thinks, oh, like, I'll give you an example, okay? So a mate of mine, obviously in League of Legends, he's like considered a controversial figure. A mate of mine, the journalist Richard Lewis, he once said this to me. He said the reason he got rid of his gaming alias, because he didn't used to be called Richard Lewis, he actually used to be called Dr. Gonzo was his alias when he was a Counter-Strike Source journalist. But he said the reason he got rid of his alias is he thought it was like a bit childish and that people shouldn't have personas. But I actually have even told him this, like, everyone who is a public figure has a public figure persona. That is not who you are as a person. I mean, the funny thing is, the Japanese are actually like light years ahead of us all in this sense, because they have that famous concept that like you have three faces. You have the face you show the public, the face you show your friends and family, and the face you only show yourself. Now, that's a brilliant concept because what that suggests is everyone is like that. Now, sadly, and this is one of the main reasons why outrage culture exists, people pretend that we don't have all those, and that whoever we are in public is just who we are as a person. And even worse, people lie publicly that they think they are only their public persona. So one of the tilt-worthy things is, like what you're saying there, Loco. Like, do you think all the people who got upset at Saint don't say outrageous things themselves in private to their friends or think things in their mind? Of course they do. Like, there's no way they don't, because no one's perfect in that sense. But they don't have any problem in public where they've never put a foot wrong, and you can't prove they do that, lying and being like the most fucking pearl-clutching Victorian school mom, like, oh my lord, I can't believe you said that. I'm positively outraged. Like, and yet you're looking at them and they're like a 17-year-old kid who plays Fortnite and is probably dropping all the words that begin with F in the fucking dictionary while they're playing, and they're not on voice comms on a stream somewhere. So, like, everyone's a mad hypocrite in that particular sense. Sure, they're not all saying stuff as outrageous as saying, but everyone's saying some things privately that you wouldn't say publicly. The problem is, when you become a public persona, and especially one like in Saint's example, who's spending a lot of time in front of the camera, like, you can't be perfect in that sense. You either have to be bland, maybe you're just a boring person, in which case, great. Like, I wouldn't say everyone should be boring, or you're going to have to, every now and then, get yourself out of hot water if you give your actual opinions. Because it's like I said, it's like playing Russian roulette. You fire once, the bullet didn't come out. Well, in the streaming world, it's like, right, let's queue up and fire another one. Eventually, a fucking bullet comes out, doesn't it?
As I learned, like, the risk is, it's not, do you want to be boring or do you want to be interesting? The decision you're actually making is, do you want to be boring or do you want to be fired? I'd rather be boring than fired. So. Well,
you've succeeded in both. So.
Oh my god.
Why
are you like this?
You're all right. You're all right. You're all right. Here's the thing, Loco. The sad thing is, if anything, you should be able to relate to my position, because you actually, as you said, especially ever since you left TSM, haven't been particularly edgy at all. Yet you are still considered a pretty controversial person, and people think like, "Oh, he's so outspoken."
No, it's because people remember me from before. I'm no longer.
No, it's also because compared to the others, here's the thing: your hybrid version of being edgy and being somewhere in the middle is still way out there compared to most bland pros.
Wow.
And people feel like they have to behave like, you know.
Have you seen my stream, or like how I just like talk in general? I'm no longer like, I don't consider myself edgy at all. Like, do you really think like my persona or what I say is like edgy?
You are edgy compared to the average pro, is my point.
Really? Is the average pro really that boring and soft?
They're boring as fuck, man. Have you ever seen an interview with the LCS? I'd rather watch fucking ants climb into my nose while I sleep. Like, it's boring as fuck. It's like, oh yeah, we felt good and we're going to try really hard and the coach is doing a really good job. It's like, fuck me. This is so boring, it's unreal, isn't it? Like I don't know why anyone watches that shit. Like,
no wonder you like Dardoch so much.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the thing with Dardoch, like I told you, all he needs to do is channel his negative elements into a positive way. It would be brilliant. Like, he just hasn't like figured out how to use his. Basically, I'll give you the straight up fire analogy. He's just like a fucking, you know, like in X-Men where mutants become teenagers, and it's a metaphor for, like, you know, coming of age, and their powers turn on and they don't know how to use them, you know. And the question is, does old fucking baldy cunt Professor Xavier come in and go, no, use your powers for good, I'll teach you at my school, I'm not at all fucking creepy, I can only control you with my mind. But yeah, definitely wouldn't be abusing that skill, would he? But anyway, or does Magneto get there and go, yes, young mutant, I will show you how to destroy them all who have fucked you. My point is, I go the other way. I go like, yes, Dardoch, come over here, son. I will show you how to conquer the league. You must learn to use your teammate. I told you, I'd even appeal to the dark side. I'd just be like, listen, tell your teammates you're a really good teammate. And the reason you're going to learn to work with that guy is because then he's a pawn on your chessboard and then you can win the game. It's no good being a really sick knight if you don't have control of the king and the queen, isn't it? Like, you've got to have control of the whole thing. So have your team in your org and in your back pocket, have your teammates in your back pocket, even just be a mad fake fuck. Just tell them all, yeah, I love you guys, oh, brilliant effort, you tried your hardest. But then behind you, get him out of here, get him fucking out of here, get that Lolo off, his fucking team now, he's garbage. And then just go back like, oh, you won't believe this, Lolo, they're cutting you, bro. I told them I'd quit if you left. But then they told me that they wouldn't let me out the contract, so I'm sorry, but we had to get Hooney in instead. Listen, and you know what? They told me they're going to actually not let me play in the LCS if I leave. So, like, you wouldn't want me to leave, would you? No, of course not. You should stay instead of me. I don't know what his fucking name is. What's his name? Like Matt or something? I don't know. What the fuck Dardock's name is. What's Dardock's first name? Josh. There we go. Just go. I wouldn't want you to lose your job, Josh. All right, thanks. Anyway, can you clear out your room by midday because he's going to be here and he really likes the room to be clean when he's there. Like that's like the fucking world I would tell him to live in, you know. So yeah, that's why. That's also, by the way, there's a negative aspect to that, which is the one thing I would say to those people is Dardock, Forgiven. These people also don't understand the concept of public persona. Like, sadly to them,
that's not a persona. That's who they are as people.
That's my point. So that's probably the biggest thing they don't understand. And this is a problem I used to have, which is when you're not very good in terms of being socially aligned, like talking to people and knowing how they respond to you, you either say nothing and you get social anxiety and you're, oh, fuck, I can't do anything. That can happen. Or you go the other way, and this is where it becomes very negative, and you think, oh, that's just who I am. So, you know, like, don't judge me, you know, it's just who I am as a person. It's like, it is, but at the same time, you don't have to say everything that, like, you don't like about your teammate in a game, you know. You can still, like, you wouldn't say everything to your mother who's just done something, you know, you'd know, well, got to be polite to her and stuff, you know. In the same sense, I feel like they have to fix that particular aspect, you know. Like, I would just tell them in that sense. Like, I was joking when I said I'd make them totally fake, but I would just tell them, like, put a fucking bow on it when you're going to tell someone they've done something wrong. Like, you know, I wasn't even joking when I said the first thing I would do to someone like Dardock is tell them, read the fucking book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Like, if you want to tell someone they fucked up, tell them something they did right first. Like, listen, in that game, like, you started off really well and you really understood the lane matchup. But you know, when I asked, like, should I come and gank at this point? Like, I don't think you did a very good job with that. Like, if we looked at the demo now, what would you do different? Like, if that's the exact same comment as saying, like, you fucking idiot, like, why weren't you ready when I came up 4 minutes? The difference is the latter isn't productive at all and will get a negative reaction because you're sort of like insulting the person. The former will probably get the guy on your side. And even if in your brain, I'm saying that as a joke because I'd have to appeal to whatever fucked up mentality Dardock has. Like, oh, no, by being nice, you're tricking them all. Eventually, you know the real secret, Loco? He would do it so much, that would become the habit and he would become a nicer person. I tricked him all along. I wasn't actually a Sith Lord. I am the fucking Grey Jedi. I am the only one who combined the powers of the Force.
Yeah, the Sith don't view themselves as evil. Anyways, Gilius, to kind of loop you in, how do you treat your teammates? Like, because of, like, your persona, like, are you, like, younger Josh? Like, are you, like, 2016 Josh whenever you talk to your teammates? Like, how do you behave, like, when you talk to your teammates?
You have to give me a situation, you know? Like,
something happened, like your top laner messed up, or like you guys lost games, or like in, like, I guess heated situations, like, are you like, I'm the fucking best jungler in LCS and like you guys fucked up? Like, how, like, I'm not saying you are that way, but how are you like with your teammates? I'm genuinely curious.
If someone is inting and scrims, I will try to not talk about it in the game. And then after the game is done, in the review, I will, if the coach doesn't call it out, I will try to talk about it, you know, try to find a solution so it doesn't, like, so we can fix the issue, you know. Just try to be a productive team player, basically.
So,
that's how I am. Yeah.
The persona, or like the Twitter, is like, it's outward. It's never inward, like within your teammates, or like that kind of aspect doesn't show.
No, but like, I can get really mad when basically my weak point has been when I lost, like, let's say, a really important best of 5 where basically the split or the season ends after it and I lose. Then I can get really frustrated, but I will not let it out on my teammates, you know. I will just, like, keep it in, and I will not be nice to talk to basically after that for some hours, you know.
Oh man, I mean, we
like,
talk about.
I think that's really toxic about me. That when I lose, I get really. I don't know how to explain, but like, if I lose a best of 1 LCS, I know why it happened, and I can just, like, get over it, you know, after some hours. But when I lose a best of 5, that's super important. I get into, like, instant depression for one day, you know, and
Obviously, we don't want Gilius to get fired, so he just means metaphorically he's in depression there, not the clinical state of depression, because obviously he doesn't think he could get out of that within one day just by feeling happier. So
Yeah,
there you go.
sorry, guys.
Basically, if I was just there, saying it's not a job, so
Yeah,
that's
sorry,
the
guys.
problem. Innit? Should have fucking invited me on his stream, saying.
Yeah, didn't want to use
No,
that word, by the way.
Speaking of like the depression, anxiety stuff, I actually think it would be so much easier like if depression, the actual clinical disease, had like a different name, not like the word depression, like an English word, or like social anxiety or just anxiety, actually had like a different like language or a different like word. So like when people say, "Oh, I have anxiety," then what the fuck do you mean by you have anxiety? Do you mean like the clinical, like the medical anxiety, or do you mean like you just have anxiety? And people use those two words interchangeably, where like, "Oh, I'm depressed." Well, just cheer yourself up. Well,
Sure.
I didn't mean like depressed as in like just a feeling depressed. I was actually under the medical like term depressed, and like it becomes a whole different ballpark. So yeah, like one word, but it has two very, very different meanings.
Yeah, well, what I meant was that I get really frustrated when I can't continue to a international event, basically, or when all the work that I put in one split basically ends in one best of 5, where I feel like it was super winnable. I always feel like it's winnable because people do so many stupid fucking mistakes in League of Legends, but yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, by the way, that angle you said there, Loco, of like there should be a different word. To be fair, that alone is one of the main problems with all of outrage culture, is that people love to take things that are said metaphorically as if they're said literally. Even if the person says, "Oh no, I meant that literally," they go, "No, metaphorically." They go, "No, you didn't. That mean you meant this." It's like telling people what they meant is like a really fucked up thing to do in any conversation. But what you do if you don't understand what someone says is you say, "Could you please clarify that for me?" Or you say, "Did you mean this?" And if they say no, the polite thing to do is go, "Oh, my apologies, I misunderstood you." In the outrage world, if someone says, "I'm depressed in that sense," they're not making light of being depressed. What they are probably is someone who doesn't know what depression is, and they just mean, "I'm really sad." But that because they only know it as a concept, not an actual condition, that they think that's the case. Like, that's probably the thing that annoyed me the most about the backlash against the Saint thing. Yeah, I don't agree with the things he said. I probably would recommend don't say those things. And the way he portrayed them was probably quite ignorant. But one thing that does tilt me about it is the angle of, like, people couldn't even conceive of how he could criticize these things. Like, I don't know about you, but if you haven't experienced something, it's entirely plausible to be skeptical of it, or to think, is it even real? Or unless it's affected you, think, well, what is it really like? Or to imagine what it might be like. I'll give you a great example. Here's an example a lot of people will be able to relate to, especially since you are in Las Vegas. So Las Vegas, like California, has recreational cannabis use. Now, anyone who has, for the first time ever, tried to smoke cannabis will know that there is a famous effect that a certain percentage of the population will not actually get high from the cannabis. Like, it won't affect them the first time, sometimes first 2 or 3 times. And so they might actually think like, "Oh, weed doesn't affect me in any way." Now, the joke with that is, if you were with a seasoned smoker, it's like, tell you what, give it 5 chances and let me control the dose, and I think you'll get high eventually, mate. Because what happens is, when you smoke it, it doesn't do anything. You go, "Am I high? Is anything happening?" If you're high, you will 100% know it. Like, you will be so overwhelmed your first that you will definitely know you are high. So the problem is, that's what depression is like. If you've never been depressed, you're going to think like, well, what even is depression? Like, what is it? You just felt sad? Well, I've felt sad. Like, get over being sad. Like, what's the problem there? The problem is, until you are in a situation where you have debilitating depression and you try to think, well, let me get myself out of a funk. Right? I'll do some things I like to do, and I'll talk to people. Oh, let's not do anything. Oh, well, I'll start exercising. Oh, let's not do it. Until you've been in that situation and experienced something like, you're just never going to be able to relate to it. So while, yes, it was ignorant, I don't think he was like particularly malicious. Like, I think he's just someone who hadn't experienced something and so didn't appreciate what it was about.
Yeah. Yeah. I think topic is just sad to think about, because I went through something similar, and it's just Saint being uneducated and sticking his foot in the mouth and having a camera on him or a microphone on him at the wrong time. So every time we talk about it, like, I wince a little. I'm like, oh my fucking god. Like, as much as I think Saint is an idiot, he's a decent coach. He probably had a 6-figure job at FlightQuest set for years and years to come. Like,
he's also a cool guy. Like, the idea. This is one of the reasons why the idea he.
Saint is stubborn. Like, God, I hate hanging out with.
This is not someone who's like a massive piece of shit and has like done negative things in his life. Not particularly. He's a pretty cool guy. Like worst case scenario, he might be vaguely spicy with some people. Okay, like he's not a bad dude. So the idea that everyone went out. This is the other thing people do. They go out of their way to interpret what you said as bad as possible. So, for example, probably the most incendiary thing he said when he made all that rant, the most stupid part of it was when he said, like, you know, don't be like a weak little bitch or something like that. Like, even though
That's just
people
talk.
people surely understand that is exaggerated speech. Like, he doesn't mean you are literally a little bitch. Like, he's saying that as in, like, pull your shit together or whatever, you know.
I face the type of person, like, he'll invite you out for food, and I'll be like, oh, I'm too tired to go, and he'll be like, don't be a little bitch, come out. Like, that's just how he talks. He's not, like, that's just how he talks. Like, maybe it's from being in the military, maybe it's just, like, how he grew up, but, like, that's just his verbiage. Like, he doesn't mean to insult you. Maybe he does mean to insult you, but he probably means to, like, tease you a little, but he's not trying to, like, I guess, like, mentally harm you or, like, any way like that. He's just a jackass sometimes.
And he's also someone else who's a gamer and was a gamer before he was a massive person. So even though in the gaming world, Saint looks like the most fucking extravagant, like, social peacock you could ever imagine, he's still a fucking nerd. He's still someone who's actually spent most of his life sat and playing a fucking game instead of talking to people, meeting people, etc. Like, yeah, he's had a life before gaming, but he's still a nerd. And so if you're a nerd, you're never going to be the most socially aligned person. It's not reasonable, you know. That's why I actually hate this modern movement of, like, everyone's a gamer. It's like, you're not. Like, you might play games, but gamer is an identity. It's something you do all the time. It's like the main thing about you. So the reason why I hate the modern culture, they do it in esports all the time, of like, I hate it when people say gamers are all overweight and nerds. Like, child, please. You could count on about 2 hands the amount of actually, like, well fucking conditioned athlete pro gamers there are. You just only present those ones. Like, you show somebody goes to the fucking gym, oh no, look at this guy, he's really fit. Like, let me show you some straight fat asses who will kick your ass in League of Legends in the LCK.
I actually have a great example.
Your mind.
So I went clubbing with a few people yesterday in Vegas, and the amount of people that were here in All Stars versus the amount of people that went clubbing is like so dramatically small. Like, compared to, like, if I hung out with college friends and people wanted to go clubbing.
You know how many of the people who were all-stars, while you were out clubbing, they were like, ha, my cards from against humanity says? Or the others were just like...
I'm usually that person. Like, yesterday was the first time clubbing in forever. Yeah, yesterday was...
Like, or they were like, oh, hey, cool, what, you live in SoCal too? What, you playing Soraka, are you? Yeah, I'll be Jin this game. I'll boost you to the next one. That's what, like, all the groups except the club people were doing right there. That's Nerdsphere,
yeah, like, there's what, like, 200, 300 people that came, like, including players and including, like, I guess, like, staff and, like, personalities for All-Stars. And there was, like, maybe a group of 10 or group of 15 that went clubbing and, like, enjoyed Vegas for what it was. Like, I mostly just had dinner with friends, and yeah, I do think, like, gamer culture and, like, actual, like, real gamers are... It doesn't mean if you go clubbing you're not a real gamer, but majority of, like, gamers don't really go clubbing. Like, they stay inside. You play board games. You play League of Legends. Or if you're a rich gamer, then you spend money on food. Like, that's what majority of what LCS players were doing at All-Stars. They're like, oh, we need to go to this buffet. This buffet is really good. This Gordon Ramsay, like, food, it's really good. Like, we should go do this. Like, that's what majority of people were doing. They were enjoying food in Vegas more so than the nightlife. Like, that's what gamers do. What are you like, Gilius? Like, when, I guess, you do get free time, or, like, you are in opportunities, like, after season or during off season, like, what kind of game, like, what do you do?
I just play solo queue all day.
Okay. Alright. Thorian, are you gonna burn me about it being a lame question?
No, of course not. I mean, the obvious answer Gilius should have said was, look, you know, for a full-time job he plays League of Legends, and then he has a part-time job pretending to be a fucking really sick jungler and outgoing personality on the internet. Like, where's he going to get time? He has to sleep, Loco. He has to sleep and eat food as well.
Whatever.
Same as I have to play an asshole on the internet. Like, it's really strenuous. You know, I have to do my real journalist job and then come online and be this guy.
No, you're an asshole in real life too.
Hook me up with some of the fucking straight fire league girls that are rolling with you in the fucking clubs every night, in all meanings of the word. Like, that's probably the stream shut down, so Loco's fired again. So,
oh,
anyway.
God. Well, Doran, what are you like? What is it? I was like after events and stuff. I've actually never hung out with you after events. And the one time we were at a party together, you just fucking told me to fuck off, so I didn't really converse with you.
It's true. Well, the thing is, things have actually changed a lot. Actually, it's what I alluded to before. Like, I used to be a super nerd. Like, when I used to go
Used to be.
Of course. Look, mate, put me, you, and Gilius in a room right now. I'll have all the connections, all the women. You guys will still be stood next to each other going, oh, but do you think that's the guy from Riot? That, you know, like, yeah, all right, mate, I'll be fucking...
Sure.
I'll be killing it all over the place. And my point is, I used to be someone where, listen, when I used to go to Counter-Strike for events...
See, I didn't understand most of your jokes, but when you made a comment about you pulling women, I knew instantly that was a joke.
Yes, exactly. Well, great one. Sick banter. That's why we have you here on Loco. So anyway, back to what I was saying. Many years ago, when I used to go to events, and this is even when CS was really nerdy, we used to have like after parties or events even back then. And I'm not joking, I'd never went to a single after party in about 10 years. Because I had no interest in it. I thought it was just a waste of fucking time. I don't care about those people anyway. Like, they're not going to be
Wait.
there.
Did you not want to go to the after parties because you thought you wouldn't fit in? You thought you wouldn't socialize? Like,
No,
people wouldn't
nothing
like you?
like that.
You, out of your choice, did not just want to go straight up.
Just thought it was a waste of time. Plus, I was just too dedicated, mate. Like, I'm not joking. I used to literally sit there while the after party was going on, rendering the fucking files to upload them to the internet so people can watch a dog shit interview with some player that lasts one day before it's irrelevant and no one gives a fuck about. Because I was trying to be the best. So, for whatever reason, I was doing that. It's the same as the player who just stays indoors, gaming all day, even though he could go out and be good and have a life, you know, but he wants to be 1% better at the game. But in time, I actually not only learned how to express myself, but learned some social alignment. And so actually nowadays I do tend to go to the after parties. I don't go super ham at them. Like, there are still a lot of idiots there and a lot of people that aren't interested. But there's some people that are interested. And what I've learned over the years is actually part of it was my own failing. Like, if you don't bring anything to the table yourself, well then, yeah, it's going to be really awkward with the other person. And then sometimes you'll think it's them, like, oh, he wasn't very interested. It's like, well, were you interested? That's the question, right? Were you actually making an effort to see what they were talking about? Or how about bringing something to the table yourself, a funny story, a conversation? Plus, I can't lie, I have hit that status where I don't even need to go around the room now, mate. I just walk in, and I'm like fucking Jennifer Lawrence. Like, people just come to me, homie. They're just like queuing up. Oh, Ford, hey, a big fan of your work. You changed my life. Like, yeah, join the queue.
Oh
and then I go to the next one, like, you know, next or
Sure, dog,
like
sure.
that, whatever. Yeah.
Overreach, man.
All I'm going to say is this, Loco. When I was on that stream, I straight fucking alpha mailed the male of the group to you. I even had whoever that female friend of yours was just loving all my jokes, everything. I had the whole room working for me, and I just got out of there like from George Costanza, like, all right, I'm done, guys. See you later. Left them wanting more.
Wow, you're delusional. Holy shit. Those were my friends. And
fair,
you made like
those
are my friends and you kind of make sexual jokes, so I was just like, oh, I don't want to go there. I was just like, oh my god, Doran, why do you need to do this? Like, I was like, okay, thank god Jenica just like played it off. I was just thinking in my head, oh my fucking god, these are like real life friends like that I've known for years, and like I don't want to burn bridges because Doran wanted to be Doran. Yeah.
Did they play it off, or did they secretly think, at last, the real man I've been waiting for to come and inject a bit of spice into my life and give me that exciting adventure that everyone wants deep down inside, takes them on a fucking trip of a lifetime. I can show you the world.
Oh my.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm sorry you had to witness this, Gilius. I'm sorry to everyone in chat. Oh my god.
Mate, he's going to the TCL. This is the most entertaining performance he's going to see for a year.
Wow.
It's great content, man.
What do you want?
Oh, speaking of TCL, what's your expectations in TCL? Do you think you're going to win? I don't know what TCL looks like. I don't know if Frozen has a team. Like, what's your expectations?
I think I'm going to win, as always, yeah.
Do you know the teams? Like, can you let us know? Like, I know there's the Fenerbahce team, Supermassive. I don't even know which team you're on. Like, who are like the big competitors in TCL?
I think there's one competitor, and that's Supermassive. And they have Wolf, Frozen, Zeidnot, and then a jungler that's not that good. I don't know his name. And top laner, Fabulous.
Okay. I don't know any of the three players you mentioned outside of Frozen and Wolf.
They played internationally, you don't know them?
No, I honestly don't know Supermassive player names.
Unbelievable. You're partying way too much, man.
Oh, sure, maybe. Or
But,
maybe I just don't watch shitty leagues.
Okay. But talks about NA a lot,
I know.
But,
I know. And
You
hilarious,
have to
isn't
at
it?
least
Imagine
do
saying
well in
that.
NA Challenger to be able to shit talk NA.
Actually, man, NA Challenger was fun, by the way.
Yeah?
It was actually really, really fun.
I
You had
actually
Mad Life.
Mhm.
Who did you have?
Mad Life,
Mad-
Fly, Phoenix, Centauran. I'm not gonna lie, my team was stacked. I was a god tier GM.
Your team was completely OP, yeah.
You had Licorice.
Yeah.
You had world semi-finalist.
Yeah, but it was his rookie split, I mean, Licorice was really good already, but it was not this Licorice.
It's weird that, isn't it? So Loco listed off all those like straight fire players. Yeah, they're all proven good players. I wonder what it was that couldn't
Proven?
bring them all together to get in the LCS.
We were
knows?
one game
We'll
off
never know, I
twice.
guess.
We
I
were
guess it's-
one game off twice. And as a
one
challenger
game.
team,
Oh, right.
as a
Yeah,
challenger
well, you know
team
what I'm
facing
saying.
LCS teams, oh my
Yeah.
god, the level of talent on LCS teams, like even bottom tier LCS team, we had to play versus fucking Double Lift Piglet on the same team. That was some fucking jank ass bullshit. And then we had to
Yeah.
play Envious
and
with
Rainover,
Lyra,
and
Apollo,
Rainover.
Oh, so with
and
your
Rainover,
super sick
yeah.
team, with your super sick team coached really well, you couldn't beat Piglet playing mid. I think you should.
with Double
probably
Lift and
not-
Rainover. They had
Okay.
reigning
Piglet
MVP,
was so
Double
underrated.
Lift, and Piglet mid. Oh my.
No, Piglet mid was so underrated. Holy shit.
Doran, you did
I know
not
this
know the
guy-
odds. Like the odds
I
for us versus them was like it was a fucking miracle. We took them to 5 games. Like the amount of money TL spent on that roster versus the amount of money like you talk about. Oh, you had all these proven players. Like challenger budget compared to LCS budget, it was like a fucking booger's worth back then. Like you have
Okay,
no idea
quick
how.
Question.
Okay,
Quick question. Why did you have to play Team Liquid?
because they were bottom tier in LCS without Double Lift.
Sorry, that's not
Without
the way,
Double
that's not the
Lift.
way relegations works. That's not the way relegations works. You are not told, right? Congratulations, you are the best team in Challenger. You have to play Team Liquid. So why did you play Team Liquid?
I mean, we played Team Liquid because we beat Envious in the first round. We beat Envious in the first round, and then we had to play Team Liquid, who beat United in their first round. And the unfair thing about that relegation was TL was
Here we
fucking
go.
garbage for most of the split, and then Andy
Here we go.
blessed them with Double Lift. Andy saved Steve with Double Lift. Like, the Double Lift team would have never been in relegation. So it was a really, really odd situation where there's a
Super smart.
there's a
Then blame
super strong
Reginald.
team in
See?
relegation.
Reginald gave you your life in your career. You've already credited him for that, and he took it away as well. Reggie giveth, Reggie take away. So why don't you fucking hate on the guy for that? You love him when he gives you his career. Then he just stole LCS from you.
I-
And then you're just
'cause
like, oh, please, master, may I have another?
I made it to LCS anyways, and I also don't think it's my place to tell Andy how he should do his business. That's why.
No, I mean, why would one man speak to another man and tell him his actual mind? I mean, fucking hell, that'd almost be some sort of like civilization, wouldn't it?
Oh my god. Why would I tell him how to run his business? Like, what comment would I make to Andy? Yo, Andy, you shouldn't sell Double Lift to Steve for like tons of money because we really want to make LCS. Like, what's Andy gonna do? Steve's also my friend, and Steve's offering me a lot of money. Loco's my friend, but he's not offering me money or anything really. So I'll just go with
Alright,
my
so
other
you make
friend
it-
who's offering me
that's
tons of
it.
money.
Alright. Well, fair enough. Hopefully someone offers you $20 to be your fucking co-host next week. Just take the deal, mate. Take the offer the second they say it. Snap the hand off.
Sure, dog. Sure. Ah, God.
But my team finished first place in regular split, in the regular season.
Yeah. But we beat you in playoffs twice.
Who cares?
Oh yeah, who cares about playoffs? Regular season fuck
Yeah, but it
counts.
was best of 5 drafts from Locodoco. Like,
Yeah.
what can you do?
Unbeatable.
Unbeatable. Man.
Oh man, Challenger Series was actually so much fun. Like shit talking Broken Shard, shit talking Hermit. Like Challenger Series, because there's so many egos involved. Like the old Challenger Series was such a joy in certain ways because there's so many egos and sometimes so much money on the line. Like forced into Challenger scene, like working with rookie players or working with like players that have like huge flaws, and you're just trying to fix everything and get things together. I remember like coaching Challenger teams and being like, "This shit is fucking stupid," and you're arguing with me in like a manner that like makes me want to like shoot somebody. But if everything goes well, I
Oh,
have
like
stake
breaking
in this
point.
team. Yeah, like well, with Breaking Point, like I wasn't that bought into Team Liquid, but during GCU, because I had ownership on the team, like making LCS was everything for me. So even when players were difficult, there was a lot of times where I just swallowed and been like, okay, we can try things your way. Like
Went out of the door and came back with tissues.
yeah.
Dude, you're so full of shit, you know that.
Me?
Like, you just gave everyone such fucking fake news there. So people,
What's fake news?
I asked you if you had such a sick team in the LCS, why didn't you make in Challenger? Why didn't
Because
you make the LCS?
TL roster was so much fucking better, and they should never been in relegation. That was my answer. Even though we had a sick team, we had to face a team that should not be relegation level. Why does a relegation level have double lift?
My mistake. I thought mistakenly that the promotion tournament was a double elim tournament.
We did lose to Envious at the end. Like it was also
don't mention that part. No. Don't mention the part where a team that was so broken in the LCS that everyone acknowledges they had the best jungler and they couldn't win fucking barely any games. Never mind that part. Your sick team couldn't beat them. And I guess what did Reginald like give them like what the power of heart and courage? What did Reggie do for them again?
MBS beat us fair and square. I'm not going to take anything away from that.
Yeah, so shut the fuck up, sit down. You didn't make it. Now let's go to summer.
Results are everything.
Yeah, results are everything. You should just take that to the drawing board and realise that you weren't as good as you thought you were. Be humble, learn from your mistakes. Fucking Sarange, mad life, but please actually be capable of actually using your fingers next season. Here's my last question: what happened in summer? Team Liquid again, was it? Oh no, wait, that wasn't Team Liquid. Who was it in summer again?
We lost to Game 5 versus Phoenix 1, and then we lost 0-3.
Phoenix won, fucking garbage team. And then who was the other one?
We lost 0-3 to United.
United, a player that had the rookies of Cloud9 before Cloud9 and other players you've never heard of. Like,
wow.
It's weird how, but in the end, you see that, Gilius? At the beginning of the conversation, he said he didn't get into LCS with his sick team because he lost to one team that was really good that Reginald lent an MVP player to. When I actually did what a journalist does and uncovered the truth, I found 3 different teams beating him, all of which had nothing to do with Reginald Doublelift or Team Liquid. And magically, it changed the whole context of what I was saying.
That was so fun.
Oh my god! Fake news.
TL was so fucking crucial to us not making LCS. Oh my god. Sure, dog. Sure. Ugh. I don't think how anyone can say like TL wasn't such a major roadblock for all the challenger teams. Like TL not existing in spring would have made sure like we made it in. Maybe even United.
And United were major roadblocks for you. I'd stop worrying about.
Envious was a major roadblock, but a roadblock that was beatable. Oh my god.
Was there mid laner?
Yeah, so maybe you should have stepped your fucking game up and actually done something. Instead of just bending over, taking that ass whooping and going, well, turns out I'm not a land coach. Online, I kill it. It's like, oh, you know, how many Hall of Famers do you need before you can be fucking envious?
Oh my god. Anyways, do you have a final topic, or do you want to take
your
some
problem, Loco, is I'm like LSD for you, mate. You've just been living off in your own little world. I come along, and you're like, holy shit, what are these colours? What, is this what it was always like? Oh my god, I'm a human on a rock, spin around. And all the ideas blowing on. So anyway, back to you.
Yeah, I heard LSD was like taking ice cream scoops out of your brain, because that definitely feels like talking to you. It's like ice cream scoops out of my brain every time. Anyways, we are gonna.
Maybe Banter's not for everyone, Gilius. Maybe it's not for everyone. He actually doesn't fulfill either of the 2 basic requirements of Banter, to be funny or to be clever. Like he doesn't hit either. He just says stuff like, ha. Like, you know what my favourite one? I'll tell you right now, Loco, just end the episode. There's a pretty good landing, right? Like, my favourite banter that you always come with is when you always tell me that I'm really old.
Yeah.
Because you do realise that's only a Korean thing, you moron. In the West, we actually consider men who get older and more successful to be, what's that, better. That's the word, yes.
Okay, so, but some men...
In Korea, I know you're like, you weren't even married by age 30. Oh my God. It's like, I'm not Korean, homie. Do you see me in one of those fucking...
Sure, I mean, I'm someone that's well-versed in Western culture too. So some men age like wine, like fine wine. Some men are like milk, and they go spoiled, and they go disgusting and not very attractive as it ages.
Still the best you could get, homie. Here's the thing, mate. I actually still look like an adult at age 35. You still look like Harry Potter.
Girl, I mean, Harry Potter's an international phenomenon, and I do love Harry Potter.
He's also a fictional character who doesn't exist.
What does that have to do? Oh, anyways.
Yeah, I look like a human. You look like a cartoon character.
Harry Potter is an actual character, though. He's not a cartoon, Doran. Anyway, oh my God, how did the conversation even degrade into this about? Anyways.
Well, what happened was you made a brilliant fucking Word document that was like, so tell us more about the TCL that you don't even know about because you never played in. And I thought to myself,
I thought he would know about TCL. It's the fucking league he's playing in.
Hell yeah.
Oh my God.
Get real. Get real.
Okay.
Anyway, I have, like, because I'm actually a journalist, Loco, as I told you at the beginning, I established within 2 questions he didn't know about the TCL. So, like someone who's actually created content before, as opposed to just putting my knees in front of my chest, alternating to an arm up here, jumping up and flicking my hair like this, which is not actually a substitute for personality, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
As someone who knows what he's doing as a content creator, I did what you call pivoting. I pivoted away from the boring stuff to the straight fire stuff. And no matter what anyone thinks, anyone who thought I was shit, it was everything I said was wrong. Tell you one thing they weren't is bored. There you go. End of episode. Got it. Slammed.
Whoa. Wait. The whole point of doing live is so we can take viewer questions.
Oh,
what the fuck?
Yeah, go on. Like, ask these fucking plebs in the chat to whatever bullshit they think.
So if you guys go to Discord, and if you're a sub, you can type in the sub chat. If you're not a sub, you can type in the general chat. And I will be pulling questions.
We'll just read the sub chat.
I'll be pulling.
Oh
my God. Sub to us, please. We'll pick your questions. We'll pick questions and we'll ask Gilius, Dorian, and myself. We'll do this for, let's say, like 10 minutes, okay? So yeah, in the sub chat, in the general chat, ask any kind of questions you guys have, and then let's have at it. Beat Thief asks, how does Loco recover? I recover by knowing that Doran actually loves me and loves doing content with me and thinks I'm a very intelligent person and will show up in a few days to do content again, and it's all just for show, right? Right?
Yeah. I mean, what page are we on? Page 31, right? Yeah. Page 31 of the script, everyone. Like, this is all an act.
Please stick to the script, Doran.
What do you think, Gilius? How do you think Loco recovers from this? Being completely exposed, like, I tore apart his entire competitive history. Told him to just be delusional, you know?
He has to just go with it's just business one, you know? Like, just say it's just business, and then he can survive, maybe.
Okay. So
and then I fly kick Mad Life in the face off the cage.
So M the Glorious One asks, what does Gilius think of the new Nico character? And also, guys, try to direct questions toward Doran and Gilius, not myself. What do you think of Nico, Gilius?
I think the champ is very overpowered at the current state, but I really like the champion design. And apparently you can play her in the jungle as well, and in the mid lane. So I'm looking forward to make experiences with this champion.
Okay. Okay, so this one's for everyone, but I'll ask Doran, because I know you had an SKT video. Do you think SKT lineup will fail if they do not become a Mata team? And I think what Gray means by the Mata team is whenever Mata plays for a team like RNG or for Samsung White or for KT, like the team becomes very Mata centric, very bot lane centric, and very like in a way where Mata likes playing. Do you think that's going to be a problem with SKT?
Wait a minute. The premise is, will they fail if they don't do that?
Yeah, if they don't become a Mata team.
Right, okay. What do you think, Gilius?
I think wherever Mata is, he's always going to be the playmaker, I'm sure. Like, I think it's going to work out pretty well. Mata and Faker together. It's going to be crazy, man.
Doran,
I actually think the whole point of to me, Mata is like high. You get him knowing what you get. I know Golden Guardians didn't understand this concept, but if you get Mata or high, you're getting them precisely to be the player they have been, to have that captain role and to lead the team. That's why you recruit these players. So personally, I think there's no chance that they're just going to ignore that aspect and be like, sorry, Mata, just chill out and be a support only, mate. I think, if anything, they probably want to be a Mata team because to me, my read on the SK Telecom dynasty is they had an amazing style of play that worked super well in 2015, and every single year after that was diminishing returns, where it wasn't quite as good because the lineup wasn't quite as good, and then that style wasn't quite as good, and then people caught up to their style, and other people had very good teams, and eventually they had to realize this entire philosophy we've had was wicked. It won a lot of championships in Korea and Worlds, but it's time to change. And so they did the right move of bringing in someone who's completely different, has a totally different philosophy on the game, and now it's not up to Faker or Goma or whoever. I even said it Korean style there for you. So it's not up to these people anymore to dictate everything about the game. Hopefully they're humbled by last year and say, no, let Mata lead the team. He's had a pretty fucking good track record, hasn't he?
Another one for Gilius. Did you think about playing in EU Masters instead of TCL? This is a question from Green Day on Discord.
I never thought about it. For me, it was either EU LCS, TCL, or just taking a break for the spring split.
Okay. Can I ask why not EU Masters at all?
Because I know I will not be challenged in the Academy League, and it's just pointless. I can make much better experiences in the TCL, and like I could go to MSI and Worlds and face really good people there.
Okay. This
By
one.
the way, that's actually one thing that I hadn't thought of, but that might actually be a problem in the future. If you look at how much foreign talent, Koreans, Europeans, are in the TCL, it's actually, unless you get paid a lot of money, which you won't have at the moment, for example, in Europe in Academy, why would you go to Academy in Europe? The only reason to go to Academy in Europe is maybe to get picked up by an LCS team. That's it. Like, if you can make more money and go to MSI and Worlds from wildcard region, why the fuck would you stay in Europe Academy? It's actually going to probably make Academy not as good.
Okay.
Academy fucking sucks, by the way. Like, it's super boring to watch as well.
Academy is definitely less challenging than Challenger scene was, because in Challenger, everyone was trying to get into LCS so badly. Now Academy is about developing players, so I feel like the level of Challenger League or Academy
Loco,
League
it sounds like
down.
your mic wire moved or something. It just got a good crack. Talk now. Say something. Yeah,
hello,
it's fixed
hello.
now. I think it's just at an awkward angle. So keep going, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, Challenger and Academy level definitely dropped down. Really? What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know why. It was fine the rest of the episode.
Okay.
It just started like crackling. Talk now.
All right. Well, I think Challenger. Hello.
Nah, it's just gonna keep doing it. Just keep going, mate.
Okay. Well, I think level of Challenger dropped down significantly when people turned it into Academy, because in Academy you're trying to develop players and you're not trying to get into LCS. The stakes are much lower. All right. Let's do a few more questions and we can end. Here's a fun one for Doran. Evilly asks, Doran, I know how much you love seeing TSM fall flat. Do you like the roster this year, and do you think they will finally perform?
Well, actually, that's the thing that people don't realize is I actually don't enjoy the team TSM failing. I just despise some of the utterly moronic TSM fans. So I'm glad that TSM fans feel bad and don't get to enjoy the game. Good. You pieces of shit. You deserve to have a horrible time. The players, the saddest thing is, the teams I wanted to see fail from TSM were actually the teams that I don't think were that good. Like, I know some of them made the finals of LCS and even won some of the splits, but the ones that had, like, when they had Musboy in the team for too long, or when they had, well, the one at your last split, actually, when it was Bjergsen hard carrying everyone's bitch ass through the whole tournament. Like, I thought those teams should have failed. I think it would have been more beneficial for the org. Sadly, all the lineups they've had from Season 6 on, I've actually thought I've had some really good players, and players who, quite frankly, I have nothing against. Some of them are some of my favourite players. So I actually think it's sad that those teams, while they succeeded domestically, never got any international success. I wish they've done better, quite frankly. I don't particularly care about them beating TSM in that sense. Like, I don't associate the fans with the players of the team, you know. I disconnect the two. What was the other part? Was there a second part to it?
Let me go back and ask.
It was it was like I love them because they failed, and then what? What was?
Do you like the roster this year, and do you think they will finally perform?
Well, maybe now as well we'll find out if like I have totally the wrong read on TSM, because I actually think this roster is not that great. Like, I think it's going to do pretty badly. Like, I think it was a massive gamble to take on the Broken Blade guys. Showed nothing, quite frankly. I don't really care if he played in the TCL. Who else did they get? Smoothie's a good player, but you never know with synergies in the bot lane. There's some being amazing players that individually were great, just didn't work together. So kind of out on that one. And then you didn't get another jungler, and you still got Bjergsen. Great, Bjergsen's sick. I know that. Sven's a pretty good player, but he needs a good lane partner. Shot calling, what is that? TSM still doesn't know. Do they have a jungler? Who the fuck knows? So I actually think this lineup's not that good. If I had to go ahead and predict, I don't think they'll make an LCS final this year.
Okay.
or we'll go to Worlds.
All right.
That's
Let
my
me
prediction.
do one more Gilius question and then one more Dorian question, and we can start ending. Let's see. Well, someone was asking, hey, Snowlight asked Gilius if EU players are doing in-houses similar to NA. I mean, they're obviously doing in-houses. So one thing that I saw in in-houses in North America were some of the players trolling. Not straight up trolling, but basically inting or not playing really serious picks. How was the in-houses in Europe? Like, what was the level of it? What was the level of seriousness of it?
It was basically just like an ego battle. Like, it was not like for fun in houses. It was people wanting to destroy each other on stream, in the game. And like after the game, we would come to the team speak and talk shit. Like whoever won, talk shit about to the enemy team. So it was like full tryhard and full tryhard draft. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So you guys would win, and you guys would go into the other team's team speak and like shit talk them. Like you guys are fucking
We
shit.
would go just together and just like have a discussion who like was the problem in the enemy team, if there should be some roster changes. And it was really funny.
Jesus Christ. Okay, final question for Dorian, and then let's start closing the show. Dorian, how will your opinion on Froggen evolve if he fails to find any success, Worlds, playoff, etc. with this Golden Guardians roster?
I don't know if it would. Here's the thing: that's not what would define it. Like, I'm not. So I'm actually, as I alluded to before, I'm more in the Gilius camp on that one. Like, I think he can actually beat a team that doesn't win and still be a very good player. I don't personally think that like the results mean everything in that sense. Results are a very good indicator, but for example, you could obviously have like a one-off match that could be the 1 in 10 that you lost, and you would have won 9 out of 10. That's absolutely just the way probability works, I'm afraid. So for me, the main question would be, how does Froggen individually plays? If he plays individually badly, even if they win the fucking split, I'll consider him a player who's maybe become washed up or is not a good player anymore. On the other hand, if he plays really well, does everything he can as an individual mid laner, and the rest of the team is either bad or disconnected or they're coached poorly or something, then I won't think he's a shit player just because he didn't go to Worlds or win LCS. Like, I don't know if any of you've noticed this so far, but winning LCS means fuck all when it comes to the international stage. Like, it's not even, the two don't have any, it's like, people think Worlds is just a step up from domestic. It's not. We discussed this on one of the past episodes. Think about how many number 1 seeds have failed from the major regions, and then how many like number 3 seeds just have a great Worlds and do like a crazy little run on. It's ridiculous, isn't it? So as a result, I don't go too far on that sort of thing. Like, someone like Froggen has played so many years. 1 year isn't going to change his entire career and destroy his whole legacy. Like, he was a brilliant player before, hasn't been as sick the last few years, but then again, he also hasn't had a team that could enable that, so I can't really know what he could have done. So I thought he played pretty decently on Echo Fox. That usually was above average, especially for his position. Probably not the best mid laner anymore, but let's see. He's got a good team now. I've told you, I already predict this team's going to do well, so I think they could be very good.
Okay. Gilius, thank you so much for being on the show. Do you want to say some final words before we close out?
It was really fun being here, and thanks for inviting me.
That's it? That's it?
You want more? Like, I also learned some stuff, by the way, so it was a nice talk. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Torrin had some really good stuff to say.
And me, right?
Yeah, you obviously too, but
Okay.
Torrin more.
Well, that little like fairy story he told about the LCS promotions was fucking amazing. I'm going to tell that to my kids before I can go to sleep.
Oh, sure. Oh, my. Okay. Anyways, yeah. Thank you guys so much for being on the show. I'm sorry for some of the technical difficulties. Hopefully we'll be back by like Wednesday or Thursday. We'll either have Ben from Misfits, the owner, or Ashley Kong of Horizon Esports, and maybe we'll do a Korean LCK one, or we'll do more of a European one, but we'll make it more owner-centric, and yeah, it'll be fun either way. Thank you guys so much for being on the show.